Mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, then. All righty. Well, how are we going to go about this one? First, I'll just say congratulations to the Knicks who won a basketball game tonight. I feel bad even reading the final score, lest someone listen to this as a podcast tomorrow who did not watch this game and thinks that the 118-109 final was representative of the sort of game that this was, which it was not. I am going to attempt, I don't know that I'm going to be very successful tonight, especially with, I know I have Andrew Claudio lurking in the background, but I'm going to attempt to take a page from a character in one of my favorite movies ever, Boiler Room. And I forget the name of the character he plays. It's Ben Affleck, the Ben Affleck character. And he gives a little speech at one point during that movie. It says, act as if. And I will not recite the rest of that speech, although I do know it by heart. There's a couple of choice words in there. But act as if. Act as if. Act as if you have been there before. And I know tonight is going to be a night that generates a goodly amount of excitement amongst Knicks Nation. And I feel that I have some modicum of responsibility to at least not pour cold water on any of that excitement. That's not. I'm not here to pour any cold water, but at least to contextualize what we saw. Now, you may hear that, and you may say, "Oh, well, Macari's going to poo-poo this. He's going to say the Celtics didn't care about the game. They haven't cared about a game in weeks. Obviously, they pulled all their guys, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and they're going to come out with a different level of intensity when when these two teams meet in the playoffs. And by the way, there's still a possibility because the Knicks need to finish 2-0 to secure one of the top 3 seeds and avoid potentially a matchup with Boston until the Eastern Conference Finals. There is still work to be done on that end. So for all we know, we could be seeing the Celtics in the second round. Could be seeing them not at all. This Knicks team needs to get out of the first round. And this is a funky Eastern Conference. There's talent up and down the Eastern Conference. There's teams to be respected in the Eastern Conference. But with all that being said, there is no team in the East outside of Boston, and I'll get back to them in a second, who should be feared, who should be respected, and who should be projected to do some real damage in the playoffs once they start, more than the New York Knicks. And what the Knicks came out tonight and did was made a statement to anyone left, and I don't know how many people there were. I know there weren't a lot of people here in New York, but certainly people around the basketball-watching country who were probably refused to ever get on board the train, and then maybe if they got a toe or a couple toes on the train during January, the second the injuries happened, jump right off, and then the second that Julius Randle went down, or was announced that Julius Randle wouldn't be back this season, didn't even ignored the train. Well, hopefully, tonight was a reminder that, actually, you can't get back on the train because it's full. And that is because there are plenty of smart basketball watching people out there, both in this Knicks fan base and around the country, national media people who do know what they're talking about. Respect to them. That know, I think, what this team is capable of doing. And that speaks to their floor, which I would proffer is arguably as high as any team in the East. Again, outside of maybe Boston, although Boston's floor was pretty goddamn low tonight. But also, and I think this is what tonight was a message about. Tonight was a message about their ceiling. And even with Boston coming out and not giving it the effort that you would probably expect to see from them once the playoffs started, I think there are a few things that we can all take away from this game that can absolutely translate to any projections or hopes or dreams that we are going to have about this team's playoff run. In no particular order. Actually, I'm going to try to go from like small to big. So just in terms of how they approach this game, this team is not afraid of Boston at all. And I don't think we needed to see tonight to know that this team was not afraid of Boston. But in case there was any doubt, let that doubt be gone. This team's not afraid of Boston. This team's not afraid of going into Boston and winning a game. The last team in the Eastern Conference to go into Boston and win a game was the Knicks. And now the first team since the last time the Knicks did it is the Knicks. Boston had won 27 consecutive games against Eastern Conference opposition, as that stat has been going around tonight. The last game that they lost was against the Knicks, and now they've lost another one against the Knicks. This team they're not going to be afraid walking into the Boston Garden. And they're not going to be afraid to play the Celtics. And that is because of the couple of things that I want to get to now, which is I think this team maybe not has a plan to beat the Celtics, because the one thing that I will say, other than the fact that the Celtics maybe weren't as locked in, although I got to be honest with you, I thought the Celtics were pretty freaking locked in the first quarter. And even through most of the second. And the tough part of this conversation about how into it was Boston is like you started to see them let go of the rope right around the time they got punched in the face. And that's another reason why I think the Knicks have a lot of self-belief when they face this team, is because they know that they're mentally stronger. Did the Celtics have the option to opt out of tonight's game? Absolutely. And you know what? They've earned that option. They've won 65 games or however many games it is. They actually saved their season-long net rating from going down too much tonight because they made it respectable in the end. They've earned the right to opt out of a game like this with 2 games remaining in the regular season after this, and it means nothing. They've earned that right. But they did it. They chose to do that, and they chose to do it in the face of adversity. And the one knock on this team, as you look at their pitfalls throughout this year, and there haven't been many losses, but there have been a few. And you look at those pitfalls and you look at those dry spells, it has always come, if you knock him in the mouth, they start to lose their plan. It's a quote, great line about Mike Tyson, or from Mike Tyson. And this Knicks team, again, feels like they could hit this Boston team in the mouth. And how do they do that? One, they quicken the pace. Didn't get a ton of fast break buckets, but that's not the imperative here. It's just don't let Boston set up their defense. Start the offensive possessions with the Celtic defenders a little bit off kilter. And then when you factor in all the movement that I talked about it for much of the pod that dropped yesterday with Steve Jones Jr., Benji, DJ, a few other people who are really good at the X's and O's that watch this team on a regular basis. They have been all over this for a while now. The movement that this team is playing with on the offensive end makes it so that when you have a superstar at the center of it all, and don't worry, we're getting to him, they become maybe not impossible to stop, but like, boy, oh boy, do you have to be locked in to have a chance of stopping them. And the odds are, even if you are locked in, they're going to find a way to get a pretty good shot when they have their guys out there. And they have enough guys. Yeah, they're going to lean on their starters, but they have the guys. And that's another reason. We could sit here and we could talk about Boston's top 6. It's one of the best top 6s that the NBA has seen in years. The Knicks got a pretty damn good top 5 right now. And then when you factor in the Deuce piece, Mitch, very rough start to the game for Mitch, if we're being honest. I thought he showed some signs of life as the game went on in the third quarter. If he could continue to make it all the way back, and then, man, oh man, maybe the biggest revelation from this game, the biggest takeaway from this game moving forward as far as relevance and impact to whether the Knicks can make a deep postseason run, Bojan Bogdanović. Ooh, yes. Comfortable? Is he getting comfortable? Sure look pretty comfortable out there. So that's 8 guys right there, with Precious kind of hanging in the wind there as the 9th. If you need me for a few minutes, I got you. He had them tonight when they needed him for a few minutes at the end of the first half. So with all of that going on, with all of that depth, they're going to get good shots as long as they keep getting into their offense, they keep playing with pace, and relying back. If they face this team, they're not going to be able to do it against maybe every team to their usual degree of absurdity, but against this team, their offensive rebounding can be had to an absurd degree. And they're the best offensive rebounding team in the sport. And against this team, they will use that as a weapon. So you have all of that on the offensive end of the floor. On the defensive defensive end of the floor, look, if Boston's hitting shots, nothing matters. This is a team that if they're going to shoot 40+% from three, you're probably not going to win. Or it's going to take like an absurd perfect game on both ends of the floor to beat them. They had a little bit of a cold spell there once the game started, once the Knicks started to make their run. It coincided with the Knicks run, not coincidentally. And then the Knicks, it was a blowout by the end of the second quarter. That's not always going to be the case. Some nights they're going to hit their shots. And when guys like KP and all of like the rest of their pieces are draining threes, like it's going to be like ice skating uphill. However, on that end of the floor too, I loved the Knicks' plan. It is, we're not going to give you threes. The only time that you saw the Celtics spring free for threes tonight was after Isaiah Hartenstein left in the game, and you saw Mitchell Robinson got caught up on a screen. He didn't go right up on Jason Tatum. A couple of those moments. Got to hope that Mitch cleaned that stuff up, and I don't mean to single him out on the negative end, but to be honest with you, that's the only time that I saw leaks spring in their defense. I didn't see Boston getting a whole lot of open threes over the first stretch of time or first half in this game. There were not many. And that is the lifeblood of their offense, because as many have said, are they capable of going inside? Are they capable of going and bringing it to the hoop? Are they capable of drawing fouls? Yeah, they're capable of it. They do it sometimes. They don't want to. That's not how they want to play. They want to fire away. I think the Knicks know this. I think Thibodeau knows this, and I think he has his guys prepared. This is how we are going to attack this team when we are on defense, and we're going to put a certain type of pressure on them. That can they counter it? Yes. Do they want to? Maybe not. So you have all that going on the defensive end. You have everything going on the offensive end, and then what does it coalesce around? It coalesces around a player who is playing. I'll quote Kenny Smith, because he's thrown Jalen Brunson under the bus a few times this year. He said it, not me. Jalen Brunson's playing is better than anyone in the Eastern Conference, and it ain't particularly close. That's what's been going on here over the last days, weeks, months. How long? I mean, like, I don't even want to put it into the terms of what we are witnessing right now is absurd. Because when you start out the phrase with what we are witnessing right now implies that there's going to be the other shoe that's going to drop, or it's going to start coming off the cliff, or it's just generally not sustainable. Is he going to go out there and score 40 every night? No, he's not going to go out there and score 40 every night. But this is just who Jalen Brunson is. And this is my main takeaway from this game. And I don't give a shit how many games up on second place Boston is right now. I think the Knicks will go into that series knowing, and I will certainly go into that series believing that they are going to have the best player on the floor. And that is not a knock on Jason Tatum. I thought it was a nice, fair, smart conversation that Stan Van Gundy had tonight, talking about that, when he was asked, Jason Tatum's not there in your top 5 MVP. Well, and Van Gundy responded, that's not a knock on Jason Tatum. So Tatum's 6th. Now, you only get 5 spots on the ballot, but that's besides the point. Jalen Brunson's the best guy on the floor when they play this team. And I'm kind of wondering, in what series will they play where Jalen Brunson won't be, in the Eastern Conference at least, the best player on the floor? The one that, and no one's going to want to hear this because we're all flying on cloud 9 tonight. The one that I at least have my doubts is against Philly. And I don't know what type of shape Joel Embiid is in right now. And I do know his playoff history, and it has not exactly been sterling, but I also know that he is, along with Nikola Jokic, one of the 2 players in the league that is just capable of, like, he's the things that he's capable of are special. But that's one guy. That's one guy, and I don't know. Again, I don't know what kind of shape he's in. I don't know how he's going to respond to a big playoff series. We have seen him underwhelm in the playoffs. And I also don't know how much I love that Sixers team. I mean, they're well coached, but look, I'm getting off track. Tonight's about tonight's game. The point is, they have everything in place to make a run. Does it mean they're going to the finals? Does it mean they're ever even going to get to Boston if they end up in the 2-3 and they do match up with Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, or they would. Does it mean they're going to get there? It honestly, nothing's guaranteed. Getting out of the first round in the East is not guaranteed. And people are going to hear that and they're going to be like, "You're nuts, Macri." Maybe I am. And maybe I just have too much respect for some of the opposition and some of the talent that is in this league right now. Anyone could lose any series if you get a bad injury or if you get a couple of cold games or whatever. But here's the thing, and this is where I'm going to end it, and then we'll go on to a couple of an announcement, a couple of our segments, and then on to the celebration. And this is, I'm going back to what I opened with, and this is what I keep coming back to, and this is why I have so much faith in this team and why I'm not worried at all heading into the playoffs, because if someone beats them, they're going to beat them. It's not going to be the Knicks losing. It's not going to be the Knicks coming up short or falling flat or getting scared or not being able to live up to the moment or forgetting what they're supposed to do or not executing or any of those sorts of things. The Knicks are going to force you to beat them. And right now, other than Denver and other than a locked-in Boston, there is no team out there in the league that forces you to beat them more than the Knicks force you to beat them. They have a plan. They have the players. They have the superstar. They have the coach. They have everything in place. I don't know how many different ways I could say it, because it needs to be said because it's true. And they should be picked in any series until, if and when they get to Boston. And even then, we'll have that conversation if and when the time comes. Been waiting. It feels like I've been waiting 25 years for this team. This is how basketball. This is basketball nirvana. I know it's not the playoffs yet. I wouldn't know what it is to win a championship. I've never seen one. But in terms of how a team is playing, how they approach every game, the feeling of confidence that you have when you watch them, it doesn't get any better than this. You know exactly what you're going to get from this team every goddamn night. So why not them? Right? Why not now? Why not now? I know Julius is down. I know the Celtics have won 60 whatever games. I know the Nuggets are over there in the West, along with a couple other teams that are very talented, but I don't know. Why not? Let's fuck around and find out, you know? And that dance will start in a little over a week. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. A little bit more work to do. I want to get these last two games. Contrary to popular opinion, I think the Knicks are going to absolutely go run out their starters and play as many minutes as they need to play to win tomorrow's game against the Brooklyn Nets. But that'll be maybe we'll get into that later. Before we get into our sponsored segments, right, though, I do want to bring up certain gentleman named Andrew Claudio.
Sweet Caroline, da da da.
Oh God!
Good times never feel so good. You suck, Boston. You suck. Ah, John, that was such a measured, professional, well said, well spoken monologue, sir. I appreciate, and you're very good at what you do.
But you're gonna shit on me now because I didn't go hard enough.
No. This is where I just want to show up and two things to say. First of all,
hey, there it is.
Okay, that's one.
I love it.
Second of all, actually three things. Second of all, if I may quote a piece of pop culture of my own that I enjoyed, in the recently departed television show Winning Time, there's a scene in which the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers gets his team together and says the following. So if you could just play a game with me, repeat after me, John Macri.
Sure.
Fuck Boston.
Fuck Boston.
Fuck Boston.
Fuck Boston.
Fuck Boston.
Fuck Boston.
There you go.
I like it.
And I do want to get serious for a second because you just said something that was very intriguing.
What?
Why not now?
Oh, well.
Why not this team? Why do we have to wait until we're healthy? Why do we have to wait till next year? Why do we have to wait until we have a superstar? Why do we have to wait until we have the right team? Why do we have to wait until we get a new coach?
Another superstar.
Right.
Superstar. Yes.
No. We were told we didn't have one.
Oh,
we
I
were
know.
Told
yes, okay.
we didn't have a superstar.
We were told that.
We weren't told we had a 1 or a 1A.
No,
John Macri.
No.
We were told that this isn't the year. There's house money. I just have a question for everybody.
Yeah.
I'll echo John Macri. Why not now? And on behalf of Knicks Film School, why not now? That is our slogan for the 2024 playoffs. Folks, if you're watching on YouTube, you know this because you can see it. But this is our playoff merch. We are launching it. It is available right now on the KFS website. That's nickfilmskool.com. The link is about to get dropped inside of the live chat. It's also available. What did I say? What?
I gotta make the window bigger on my screen because I can't really see it good. It looks like a sharp shirt. Oh, look at that.
It is a very sharp shirt. So why not now being our slogan? I will put this in the link is in your live chat at the moment. It's also in the description of this episode, as well as the description of your podcast feeds at the moment. If you want to go through this real quick, we got it in multiple colors. Here it is, the entire collection, the Why Not Now collection for 2024. Here's your t-shirts. It also comes in a very nice navy blue that I've already purchased and cannot wait to wear throughout the playoffs.
Can you order? Am I allowed to expense one of these?
Yes, John.
Can you order me a gray one?
Yes,
and then I'll pay you, and then you could you could do your magic. There you go.
We could have it on this conversation on the show.
Should I not be asking you this other?
You probably
I love it. I want
said, I can't wait to buy mine, is what you could have said, because it's a call to action, but we're good. We have a long sleeve version. We have this doesn't look different, but it is a different one. We have a long sleeve version that's a t-shirt, a long sleeve version that's a sweatshirt, and then of course a hoodie for anyone in the colder parts of the country, or if it just like never gets warm. It's supposed to be 75 degrees on Monday here in New York, but it's also supposed to rain tomorrow. So head on over to the Knicks Film School merch store and get your Why Not Now 2024 Knicks Film School playoff merch.
And it's funny because I wore actually tonight my 2021 playoff shirt, the We Here season. I decided to put that on today. So this is cool. This will be our third edition of playoff gear.
Yes, it is.
That's exciting.
Shout out to XJ who designed all of it. That is
awesome.
Talented human being, Mr. XJ. So I'm excited. Obviously, Knicks got a big W, and on we go. I'll go hand things over to Kevin. Why not now, Knicks fans? Why not now?
I love it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna order one of those for my mom. She's watching right now, probably. Hi, Mom. You'd wear a sweatshirt, right? Yeah, just text me. Text me your size. Although, actually, no, I know your size. You're small. Awesome. Okay, let's do the segments and then get on to the super chats, because I'm sure again we're gonna have some excited folk here. So we will open, as we always do, with the Unified Healing Road to Recovery. You know by now what the deal is. Go to Unified Healing, that's unified with y.com, to learn more and find a center near you. That is unified, UNIFYD healing.com. Again, to learn more about Unified Healing and find a center near you. So I think this was the second consecutive game with no Knicks on the injury report, other than, of course, Julius Randle. Who had that's big news. I haven't had a chance to get on here and talk about this yet. So this is actually big news for the Unified Healing Road to Recovery. Julius Randle is officially on the road to recovery because he had successful surgery. I think that was announced yesterday. So that's great news. That's great news. I mean, look, I feel like you never hear about surgeries that are unsuccessful, right? But the fact that we know that now for certain, and he gets back again to getting, closer to being on the court for next season. Every step. And like, as far as the guys who have been banged up and whatnot, or I guess I should mention Jalen Brunson was holding his wrist at a few points there in the third quarter, went back to the locker room, then came back to the bench. I mean, what's the craziest thing? He's whatever he is. He's 6'2", the 6'2" guard. He gets beaten like he's in an episode of American Gladiators, or like trying to, go through one of those old obstacle courses where like all the things are flying at you, or like, my God, what were some of those like old Nickelodeon shows, like Guts, maybe one of those, or like Double Dare. I know there's like newer versions of these shows, but I'm old, so I remember the ones from 30 years ago. But like that's Jalen Brunson every basketball game. He just gets his shit knocked out of him constantly, and he's this little guy, and yet he's holding this, he's holding that. You never feel like he's gonna like actually get injured. I know we had the scare in Cleveland, and even then, dude missed. What did he miss, a game? It's just wild. What an Iron Man. What an absolute Iron Man. And everybody takes a page from him. You had Josh Hart out there holding his hand there in the first quarter. Finishes 7 of 15 from the field, 16 and 16 for Josh Hart. I didn't make it a point to explicitly shout out him earlier. I thought he was the second best player in this game for New York. So happy to get that in. But yeah, the road to recovery has started for Julius Randle, and that is good news. Okay. Thank you, Unified. Next up. Oh, wait, hold on. Kevin said give him a minute, so I'll just filibuster. I will say this. There is one game going on right now of relevance, and that is Kings-Pelicans. It's kind of an off night for the NBA in terms of games that like really matter. So the out-of-town scoreboard, once we get up the logo and everything, is going to be kind of short. A shameless plug for the Knicks Film School Patreon. If anyone's not a member of the Patreon, I think it's like $7. You could get into the tier where you get at least one bonus podcast per week. And on weeks like this, you'll get a podcast from me that I sat here at 1:00 in the morning last night talking for 45 minutes about all the events of last night and setting up the playoffs and all that. I'm going to drop another one of those definitely in the next few days. Me and Andrew are going to get on here and record our All-NBA teams, our awards in the next few days. So we're really going to be overloading the Patreon content. Give it a shot. Pay $7, $7 for a month. Get yourself some pods. See if you want to become a Knicks Film School patron. But my point in going through all that is that tomorrow, Friday night, and then Sunday night, every team is playing. Nobody's playing on Saturday. 30 teams playing tomorrow. 30 teams playing on Sunday, and everything's up in the freaking air. So on that note, here is our out-of-town scoreboard presented by T-Squared Social. Don't forget, T-Squared Social is your sports bar of choice if you are in New York City. 42nd Street, right down the block from Grand Central. You get a free draft beer when you tell them the KFS sent you. Visit tsquaredsocial.com to learn more and find out about everything that they have going on. And they always have cool stuff going on. So go to tsquaredsocial.com. So, out-of-town scoreboard. Again, tonight's kind of a not really that relevant night in the NBA. The Bulls kicked the crap out of the Pistons. That is actually relevant because that means the Bulls officially clinched home court in the 9-10 game. I don't think that's that important because we saw Atlanta pull the plug. They didn't even make an effort to win their game last night. They played a bunch of scrubs in the fourth quarter. Charlotte came back and beat them. So it's very clear that the Hawks were already resigned to the 9-10 game being not in their building. The reason it might be a little relevant is that the Knicks play the Bulls on Sunday. And you wonder, with a play-in game coming up, I believe the Bulls play-in game will be on Wednesday. With that game coming up, will the Bulls rest their starters on Sunday in the final game of the regular season? And if the Knicks do need a win that day for whatever reason, and we'll go through that in a moment, might that be a little easier? Rockets are playing the Jazz right now in a game that doesn't matter. Warriors are playing the Blazers in a game right now that does matter for the Warriors. They could still move up the standings, although it is unlikely. And as I said, the Pelicans are playing the Kings right now in what is an absolutely massive game for the Western Conference play off and also play in. So on that note, the only other thing that I want to do, and I'm going to check and see if they're up yet, and it's not updated as of yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer back later to the T-Squared Social out-of-town scoreboard when playoffstatus.com, shout out to them, updates their playoff probabilities. They do it pretty soon after a game is done. So we'll get the updated probabilities certainly before the end of this live stream. But I will just go through the standings really quick for the moment. So the Knicks now move to within a game of the Milwaukee Bucks. If the Knicks win out and the Bucks lose out, the Knicks will get the 2 seed. That is set in stone. What else? The Knicks, there has been some talk about that the Knicks will not be able to fall lower than third if they win one of their remaining 2 games because they are up a game on Cleveland. That is actually not true. And here's why. Because there is still a possibility as of right now that the Knicks, if they win one of their remaining 2 games, they get to 49. Milwaukee would, if they lose out, get to 49. And Cleveland, if they win out, get to 49. That's a 3-way tie at 49 wins. In that scenario, Cleveland would actually win the division over Milwaukee by virtue of that tiebreaker. And then I'm 99% sure the Bucks would get the 3 seed ahead of the Knicks by virtue of head-to-head record within that tiebreaker there. So there is still a possibility that the Knicks, even if they win another game, could fall to 4th, which I imagine they don't want to do. It is the reason why I would guess they are going to play tomorrow night to win. And look, they're playing the Nets. I saw Cam Johnson's questionable. I saw Dorian Finney-Smith is out. They have a couple of other guys out. Look, I'm sure the Nets would love nothing more than to spoil the Knicks season by giving them not spoil their season, but take a little bit of pee in the old soup there. I think the Knicks are going to play that game to win it, in short. And what else did I want to say? I'll say this. So Knicks a game ahead of Cleveland and 2 games ahead of both Orlando and Indiana. The Knicks cannot fall lower than 5th. And again, we just went into the Boston Garden and kicked the shit out of a Celtics team that played all their guys. So I understand it's a little bit hysterical for me to be talking about scenarios where we fall to 5th place. But just in case anyone was wondering, if by some disaster the Knicks go 0-2 in their next 2 games, they cannot fall lower than 5th place by virtue of the fact they won tonight. So that has been your Out of Town Scoreboard presented by T-Squared Social. Again, go visit tsquaredsocial.com, find out more about what they're doing. And again, mention KFS when you go to the bar and order a beverage, because they'll give you a free draft beer. So that's nice. Okie dokie. I think we got through all of our business. And now I'm ready to have some fun, because I'm looking forward to feeding off of the energy of the folks that are here and that are ready to sing some outlandish praises of this team, because you know what? They deserve it. We start off with Drew P. Well, that's an interesting question to get us kicked off. Is Brunson better than the current Steph? I think so. My inclination is to say yes. And again, talk about we here. Talk about we here. We here with Jalen Brunson, where Andrew's shouting out my water cup. It's a Mets cup. We here with Jalen Brunson, where it's yeah, he's better than Steph Curry. We were all high on Jalen Brunson coming off of last year because he earned that, right? I don't think I don't think I would have predicted that I'd be sitting here heading into the final weekend of the regular season saying, "Oh yeah, he's better than Steph Curry." Steph Curry he kind of has slumped a little bit more and more, and so much is being asked of him. I do want to point out that Steph Curry's efficiency for the year is still higher than Jalen Brunson. So on paper, you could definitely make the argument that Steph is still better. I don't know. When Steph's not hitting it from 3 and he was in a real slump from 3 for a while, he still bends the floor. The entire defense pays attention to wherever he is at every second he's on the court. And that in and of itself is massive. But where Jalen's at right now, and again, with how the offense is operating, and they're all in sync, again, it's constant motion. He's using screens. Doesn't matter who gets thrown on him. There was some great tweets going around about all the different shit that the Boston Celtics did to try to stop him. None of it worked. Nothing's working because when he is that with him being that good from the mid-range, it's like, and he's on one. And it's like, you could say, all right, well, what if he goes cold from deep? Then it changes how teams have to guard him. Okay, I hear that. Totally, I hear that. Even then, like, teams, I think, are going to respect him enough, and he has enough self-confidence to continue taking those threes. And eventually they're going to go in, you know? So, I don't know. I think it's a great conversation. It's a great question. Thanks, Drew. DJ MKC. Thanks, DJ MKC. When OG has played, we've had the Nuggets, Sixers, and now the Celtics down by 30 points. P.S. How good does Mario Hezonja look? Yeah. I love Mario. You know what? Actually, he didn't look that great, because when Mario came in there for the Knicks at the end of the fourth quarter, I really didn't like his minutes. So I see you, Mario Hezonja, in the Knicks uniform. I don't like it, though. I don't like it. Yeah, man, they're that's why I kind of opened the way I did. They don't lack for confidence, but it's not a cockiness. Like, they're not. I don't believe that they're cocky. Like, they have. I think they embody their coach, and their coach. The Nets could field a group of 8th graders tomorrow, and Tibbs would go into that game being like, "You respect your opponent," you know, and they would approach that game like, "We respect our opponent." So it's not cockiness. It's not like, oh, we're going to walk out there on the floor, which was such a trait for this team for so long. Whenever it was good, and this is most teams, this is not a knock on the Knicks, but like, over the rare occasions that they have been good, you know, they'll step out there and you could tell already, like, oh, they think they're just going to walk out there and win tonight, and that's not how it works in the NBA. This team, especially this version of this team, they don't do that. Like, I don't know when's the last time we've had that sort of performance from the Knicks. Like, you could count them on one hand, right? This since like the beginning of January at the very least. So, yeah, man. They don't fear anyone. They have confidence in themselves, and they have kicked the crap out of a lot of really good teams. It says something. Thanks, DJ. Jesse M. I need that 50th win like I need air. Yeah. I want it. I wonder if they want it. I wonder how much it means to this team. I'm gonna go ahead and look it up right now, because I'm curious. I think Tibbs has only had 2 50-win seasons in his career. No, he's had 3. I completely forgot. He got to 50. He got to exactly 50 in the last year that he was in Chicago. He got to 50 and 32, made it to the second round of the playoffs. And then there's a deceiving 50-win season on his resume, his second season in Chicago, where he finished with exactly 50 wins. But that was in a 66-game season, and their winning percentage in that year was actually higher than their winning percentage in the first year, the Derrick Rose MVP year. So, but regardless, Tibbs has 3 50-win seasons on his resume. I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting a 4th. Yeah. Thanks, Jesse. Anthony, can't wait for the Eastern Conference Finals series with the Celtics. I think that's where the vibes are at right now, right? Like, let's get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Man, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, and yet I find myself like I'm constantly the one to be like, settle down. Is it wrong that I think that should be the expectation now? I don't love doing that, because it puts, to me, unfair pressure on a group that, like, again, they're missing an all NBA level player. They're missing a guy who made the All-Star team this year. Is it fair to say that, like, oh yeah, they should, like, we expect them to make the conference finals in a conference that has one two-time MVP in his prime, another guy who would have been a two-time MVP in his prime, and a couple like the team that's made 2 of the last 4 NBA finals in the Heat. And who did I not even talk about? Yeah, I'm not even talking about the Cavs, Pacers, Magic. Like, is that fair to say? It feels unfair, but it also is like I kind of do think that that's the expectation, right? Which is wild. It's wild. Thank you, Anthony. Rob DeLuseman, what's going on, Rob? How you doing, my friend? Thank you for the contribution. JM, please be sure that our man Andrew was fully aware that the Knicks will beat your ass. And much love to the KFS fam. I like that. I like this running theme of comments here from you, Rob. This is very good. Yeah, and I should have mentioned that up top. I mentioned the offensive rebounding and how that's such a big part of their identity and also a big part of how they win. But like, I think part of it is that you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it the next day when you play this team. The final offensive rebounding numbers tonight, and they could have been more ridiculous if we didn't get the fourth quarter that we did. 17-10 in favor of the Knicks. The rebounding advantage tonight, which again, I think this will translate against this team. I think they will out-rebound this team. It's only a matter of how much. 52-36. It's the rebounding differential. It's pretty wild. And then when you factor in the turnovers, the Knicks got sloppy with their turnovers towards the end there. Otherwise, this would have been, again, a much greater – it would have been a big disparity in favor of the Knicks. The Knicks actually had 3 more turnovers than the Celtics, if you could believe that, because of the fourth quarter. Even with that, Knicks had 13 more possessions. And it's like, doesn't matter how good you are. If you're losing the possession battle that, like, drastically, makes it tough to win ball games. Thanks, Rob. Kevin Danishevsky, what's going on, buddy? At the end of the first, my dad texted, "Oh my God, can they win it all?" January feeling is back. OG changes everything. Brunson's the 3rd best player in the sport. Whew, boy, man. This is where we are right now? This is where we are. Shit. I hemmed and hawed over the period of time from February, from the end of January through February, and then when OG finally came back in March, and then when OG went back out again. And I always wanted to respect Julius and what I thought Julius brought to this team, because he deserves it. But I was consistent every time I was asked, and I got asked it several different ways. I got asked it in the newsletter. I asked it on these things. If I could only get one back, which would I pick? And there's a reason that I always said OG Anunoby, because I felt I was like, if Brunson can be Superman, the loss of Randall hurts less than the loss of OG, because they don't have anybody else who could replicate what OG Anunoby does. They just don't. And in terms of what Julius does, they don't have anyone that can replicate Julius. But between Brunson and how the offense is functioning now around him, that doesn't give it enough credit. How the offense is functioning with him as their leader, but they are, my God, are they holding up their end of the bargain? What they're doing is, really, what some of these guys are doing is nuts. DiVincenzo had 17 tonight like it was nothing. As I mentioned, Hart 6. They had 5 guys in double figures, and that's with Jalen Brunson scoring 39 against the best or second best defense in basketball. Come on. It's wild what they're doing. So their floor is just so high, and you could do a lot of damage with a high floor when you got a guy who might be the best player on the floor in most, if not all, series that you play. It's crazy. It's crazy. Except it's not crazy. Thanks, Kev. Dom Cappuccini. I don't know if there's anyone more excited tonight than Dom. Current 3-game winning streak has me convinced that our Knicks are ready for the big show whoever the opponent may be. Let's get it. Let's get to the playoffs. Let's fucking go Knicks. Yeah, I don't know what is the big show for them. I mean, I thought, and his name is escaping me, so I apologize. But Ian Begley had one of the Nova guys who was a teammate of obviously the current Nova Knicks on the putback the other day, and he was saying, like, this team's not trying to get to a conference finals. This team's trying to win a championship. And, like, of course, someone who's, I'm sure, friends with them and was on the Nova team with them, like, I'm sure that guy's gonna say that. But the thing of it is, there's no question in my mind that this team believes it could win the championship this year. Is that a little over exuberant? Maybe, but like, who cares? Like these guys have already won it all in college, granted, but they've already won it all. They know what it feels like to do it on the highest level on the highest non-professional level. So why wouldn't they think that they could do it on this level? I don't know. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you as always. Andrew P with another one. I wouldn't ask for Indiana. This coach is joyless. I wouldn't ask for Indiana. I wouldn't ask for Indiana. I'm not sure what the reference is to here. And then this coach is joyless. You mean Tibbs? Is Tibbs joyless? I mean, Tibbs is Tibbs. I don't think he's joyless. I think he's a lot of it's in Indiana, or an act rather. I think you just mean like two different things. One point about the coach and one point about Indiana. So you don't want to play the Pacers. That's fine. I'm not dying to play the Pacers. I think the Knicks would beat the Pacers though. Tibbs is not joyless. Tibbs is Tibbs. And his players respect him, which is all that really matters. Thanks, Andrew. Busy. If we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals without, I think you meant Julius, what does that say about him? And here's Busy coming and peeing in the soup. I don't think it says anything about him. I think it says a lot about the roster that they've assembled. I think it says a lot about Jalen Brunson. Yeah, that's what I think it says about. I think it says a lot about the roster, and I think it says a lot about Jalen Brunson and how versatile these guys are in their ability to step into bigger roles than they would be asked to inhabit if Julius Randle was still healthy. I think what you're angling at in terms of, would we see this sort of offense, right? Would we see this sort of offense if Randle was still here? I'm not going to shut you down on that. I'm not going to shut you down because it's fair, because I don't think we've ever seen it to this degree. January was great. They looked awesome in January. It didn't look like this, and it didn't feel like this. Does it mean this is better? Does it mean this is worse? I will, and here's where I have to go back and be like, Julius Randle he's a bucket, but not in the sense that like we use that term. But he's still a bucket. He's still a bucket, and I know it doesn't always look the way you like it to look, Busy. And it maybe when you lean into that sort of play, it can have its pitfalls. But then again, I'm not convinced that Julius wouldn't be able to step in here and it wouldn't look all too different from what it looks like right now. And you know what? That's going to be a wait and see thing because we haven't seen it. But I'm not convinced that Julius can't step right into a role on this offense and make it look pretty damn close to what we're seeing right now, with the additional benefit of you're getting one of the preeminent one-on-one battering ram, pain in the ass to defend guys in the entire fucking league. Now, that's that's not really my area of concern. My area of concern is more on the defensive end because right now they're just so on point. And like, we know Julius could be exploited on that end. That's more my area of concern. I know you're not really, that's not what your focus here is, but yeah. Anyway, thank you, Busy. Sam Garcia, MVP and first team, the man who wears number 11. I wonder if I wonder if he locked up 5th place in MVP tonight. And boy, oh boy, I did not see this coming. I guess there is maybe something of a groundswell of support for him to pass Giannis and maybe get to 4th. Like, man, 4th place in MVP. Like, there are some names that have gotten into the top 4 of MVP voting over the years where you're like, wouldn't have thought that guy would be considered the 4th most valuable player in the league in a given year. Like, I hope I'm not misstating this. I think Peja did it one year, Peja Stojakovic. I'll double check that now. Obviously, Joakim Noah did it one year. I think did he finish 3rd or 4th, whatever it was. Yeah, Peja finished 4th the 2003-2004 season when the Kings were freaking awesome. There are some other guys, if you go a little bit further back in NBA history. I don't mean to throw Peja and Joakim Noah under the bus, but like there are some other guys. But generally speaking, you get up to that level, like you're a dude. You're one of those guys. So, not to say the 5th would be bad. 5th would be pretty good. But then the All NBA conversation I'm really interested in because I think it's gonna be tight. I think it's gonna be tight. I don't know. I wonder. I think it's gonna be tight though. Thanks, Sam. Bernard Richardson, what's going on, Bernard? Thank you for the very generous contribution. If they want the narrative to be that the Celtics didn't want to play tonight, fine. This team can't relate. 100% from every player every night, and that's hashtag Knicks culture. Fuck Boston, Eastern Conference Finals loading. That is what they want the narrative to be, and the only reason I'm entertaining it to a degree, is I know if I was sitting here and doing this show and I was talking about a team that, again, I should know how many games the Celtics have won. If I was talking about 62 games, if I was talking about a team that had won 62 games and had locked up the 1 seed weeks ago and came out and let go of the rope in the second quarter, I would be saying exactly what I'm sure they're saying in Boston tonight. At the same time, in the back of my mind, I would be like, didn't love that. Would have liked to see something better. I'd be thinking that in the back of my mind. So they're not getting off the hook. And again, I will just, once again, and I had to catch myself. The Celtics were coming out and playing this game in the first quarter. This game mattered to them in the first quarter. They were trying in the first quarter. It was only when we got to the second quarter and things started to get out of hand that the Celtics were like, we're done. It's like the Revenge of the Nerds scene where the team of jocks was going up against the nerds in the tug of war, and the nerds just let go of the rope, and they were like, here, take it. Yeah, but what were the nerds doing in that moment? They were acknowledging, we don't stand a fucking chance against you guys. And the Celtics knew they didn't stand a chance against the Knicks tonight. So take that for what it's worth. Thanks, Bernard. Appreciate your generosity, man. Kevin Danishevsky, correction. They only need to finish 1-1 for top 3. I still don't think that that's true. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think there is a world where they could finish 1-1 and they could still fall to 4th. I think. in that tiebreaker scenario, I mentioned maybe if Andrew's listening right now, he could double, if he could double check on that one. What is this? I just saw this from, again, shout out to the New York basketball account, who just catches everything. Apparently, Charles Barkley said on the postgame, if they play in the playoffs, the Pacers beat the Knicks, and Shaq agreed with Chuck. Again, it's not a series that I'm like dying for. I think that's wildly outlandish to just assume that because the Pacers are run and gun that they're just going to beat the Knicks. But that's, again, it's a sign that like people still think that this Knicks team to some degree is smoke and mirrors. Like, I think that series would be tough as all hell. And that the Knicks would need to play up to their capability, completely up to their capability to win that series. But again, what the fuck are we talking about here? We're talking about a team that seems to play up to its capabilities. Like, they may not always make shots, but in terms of going out there, executing the plan and doing the things that they are supposed to do, that they game planned to do on both the offensive end of the floor and the defensive end of the floor, they do that every night. And then it comes down to talent. And like, I'm sorry, I think the talent's pretty good. And I think we have more talent than the Pacers. Maybe if Halliburton was 100%, I would feel like it's a little bit closer. Even then, though, and even though I know they got Siakam, I trust our guys. Thanks, Kev. Will Oliver, 24 edition of We Here. The league is on notice. I mean, they've been coming. Man. They've been coming. This has been a work in progress. There was a little bit of a sidestep there in the 21-22 season. It was a little bit of a sidestep, where they tried, they got a little ambitious. They went out and they got some guys that were not really in line with what they had been doing. We saw the results of that. There were also some good things that emerged that year. We learned a lot about some young players that year. But at the end of the day, you need a superstar. Like, here's the funniest part. Like, how we've had so many conversations over the last few years. Like, do we really need a superstar? You know what the answer is? Yes, we do. And we have him. So, yeah, the league is even more on notice now. Thanks, Will. Hush Zoo, what's going on, Hush? This is why I wanted to see OG with this team against Boston. It also helps that Boston isn't 80% from three. Great win. Let's go Knicks. Brunson is first All-NBA. I hope he is. When that first Porzingis 3 went down, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Did he make another one? He ended up 2 for 5. So that's the first time in 5 games, he did it the previous 4. They said this on the broadcast, where he had made at least 3 threes in the previous 4 games, including one where he made 5. Definitely my favorite non-Jalen Brunson moment of the night was OG Anunoby blocking Kristaps Porzingis at the rim. And I know the Celtics got the offensive rebound and they ended up scoring on that possession, but like seeing that I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, OG makes a bit of a difference, you might say. It's why I was as high on. I mean, listen, I said some things during that period of time that will always have people, a little upset at me. But I knew that trade was money in the bank. As long as OG stays healthy, knock on wood. I have a pencil here. I'll knock on the pencil. I knew the fit would be hand in glove. And I knew how he would elevate this team. It was just too obvious. So, yeah, pretty good. Thanks, Josh. Frank Miranda. What's up, Mac? It's your boy Frank from Patreon. Laughed my ass off ever since we spoke about where JB ranks in the star hierarchy. He has moved up like 5 spots since then. By the way, We need Kenny Smith to step to the front of the congregation blasphemy. I mean, all of these people, again, like, these people are entertainers. They are paid to entertain. Well, they're paid because like they're familiar, and people are familiar with them, and people are comfortable with them, and they are paid to entertain. And Charles Barkley is one of the most entertaining human beings alive in any walk of life. He is extraordinarily entertaining. But much like a lot of the folks on ESPN, and much like a lot of the folks in other little corners of the internet, even those that purport to be like very knowledgeable about the sport of basketball and the NBA in particular, like, they do not do the work. They do not do the work because they're busy people, because they're getting shuttled off to go talk about college games that they don't watch, and film commercials and do whatever the hell they're doing. Like, Kenny Smith is not sitting in his spare time consuming game tape. It's like he gets someone who does that and then gives him some notes before the show. So, like, let's keep everything in perspective as far as like how seriously to take these entertainers, when they talk about anything, not just the Knicks, anything. Thanks, Frack. I really appreciate you as always. You're always so generous. And yeah, I think he's moved up in the rankings. I don't know. I mean, trying to rank the top 5, 6, 7, 8 players in this sport right now, it's tough. It's tough. But he's up there. He's up there. Thanks, Frank. Christopher Halecki, I am very excited. Me and you both, man. Me and you both. It's exciting times. It's exciting times. It's not, I mean, the depths were so low. The depths were very low. It was really miserable to be a Knicks fan for a long time. And the most miserable part about it wasn't even what was going on the court. Because you could be a terrible team. The Spurs are going to finish this season probably with 20 wins. They're going to lose 3 games for every 1 game that they won. And yet, everyone's super excited there because, well, 1, they got a guy, and they have the guy, and 2, it's a competent organization. And it's always been a competent organization. So like, there's a rainbow after the storm. A lot of times when you're a fan of other teams, there was no rainbow in sight for a lot of years here, because aside from the putrid product on the court, what was going on behind the scenes made what was going on the court look like, it made it smell like roses. And so there was just no hope. There was no reason to hope. And so we would latch on to any little thing, which is why I will always, to the day I die, remember the 2018-19 season, because that was like the season of Mitch. Like, we had Mitch. Like, okay, we got something. We got something here. That's why I love the fact that he's still, on the team and he's still part of this. But to get the competent people running your organization, and then to get some real players, was just such a breath of fresh air. And then to get the guy in Jalen Brunson that we have, like, I'm sorry, but like, for me, it kind of does. I don't want to say it feels like more than 20 years in the making, because I don't want to erase Melo, but that was different. There was something different about it. There was something about how right from the second they got Melo, there was a lot of controversy because everything they gave up to get him. And then that season ended poorly. And then the next season went to shit until insanity happened. And then insanity was over. And then they ended that season on a nice run, but then it went to shit. Like, nothing happened in the playoffs. And then we had the one great year that was built largely on the backs of veterans. And that was awesome. But even as it was happening, you were kind of wondering, like, okay, these guys are really old. Like, LeBron is still there in the East. Like, where is this step one, or are we like, is this the first building block? Are we going to continue going up from here? And then obviously that playoffs ended in disappointment as well, and then it all went to shit again. Thank you, Andrea Bargnani. So it has been a slow and steady progression. It is the closest thing that you could have to drafting a generational star and seeing the progress year after year after year after year. In that, like, it's almost like the seed was planted when Rose took over, and then they hired Tibbs, and then Randall looked like Randall. Like, that was like your rookie year, right, of your generational star. And then when Brunson came in, it was like that was like year 3 of your generational star, right? And now it's like year 4 of your generational star. It's been a steady progression. I'm doing all of this off of you saying that you're very excited. I don't know if you wanted me to go on a whole diatribe here, but like, I can't help but on a night like tonight reflect back a little bit on where we have been, and appreciate where we are. And obviously, the coolest part is that there's a lot of hope for where we're going. So that's really great. Thanks, Chris. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? Missed most of the game. Really? You picked an off night to miss a game. Just wanted to thank you for all the content and remind everybody that Stephen A is a fraud. Adam Silver looks like I'm not going to say there's a P, and then there's 2 asterisks, and then there's IS. And Mark Berman is a human walrus. I wonder if he would think that was a compliment. He might. I'll have to ask him. # fire tips. Well, look, you said it all, Juanon. I'm going to have to know why you missed most of this game. I hope it was for a good reason. My pleasure. Content is it's what makes it great, is that I get to come on here and do this after games like this. It is what brings me joy in my life, which I don't know what that says about me, but yeah. And I'll leave all the other stuff for folks to read. Thanks, Juanon. Guy Huber, then. What's going on, Guy Huber? I've seen more growth from Tibbs this season than I saw the other 3 combined, given the extension and the Coach of the Year award. Not to like the old Tom Thibodeau extraordinarily backhanded compliment. There is a welt on his face from that backhanded compliment. Look, man, I mean, I appreciate the contribution, and it's a nice compliment. Tom Thibodeau has forgotten more about basketball pick any 5-minute segment over the last 3 years before this one. And in that 5-minute segment, he will have forgotten more about basketball than you have ever known in your life or will ever know. And I don't mean to put you on blast, but that goes for me. That goes for anybody, most people watching. Like, the man knows what he's doing. It's an impossible fucking job. It's an impossible job for all of these guys. All coaches have an impossible job because they're coaching against other guys who are really, really good. And the days of, guys sticking around in these jobs for long periods of time, even though they haven't really earned it, is gone. And those are replaced by, like, now you got the Mark Dagnalds and the Jamal Mosleys coming up in the world, and the Will Hardys coming up in the world. And these guys who, like, frankly, I don't know that they would have ever gotten a chance to because teams are like looking outside the box with their hires and stuff. Like, there's not many guys who are older that are still hanging around. Who is it? It's Pop, it's Doc, it's Tibbs, it's if you want to go Kerr, it's Carlisle. Maybe I'm forgetting one. Steve Clifford's on his way out. So it's and these guys are just all so good. And when a team isn't performing, it's generally because, like, well, one, the talent on the floor, but also because, like, these guys aren't coaching against an empty whiteboard. So I don't think Tibbs has grown this year. I think what has happened is Tibbs, 1, has the best player he's had since prime Derrick Rose, and 2, he has a roster full of guys that completely buy in, which is massively important. And 3, and I think this is probably where you're going with the growth thing, is he is he is leaning into what we see now, the Knicks doing on the offensive end of the floor by necessity. And like, there's a reason why I asked my first question or my second question to Steve Jones Jr. when he came on the pod yesterday was like, we're seeing all this stuff going on with the Knicks offense. I was like, how do you, and I told him, I was like, I'm a huge Tibbs stan, but how do I reconcile this with the fact that we really didn't see this? We hadn't seen this before. And he's like, well, they've been forced to play a different way because they don't have Julius Randle. But guess what? Playing the way they used to, where you like dump the ball into Julius and like get two on the ball, kick out to an open shooter, that's pretty darn effective too. That's a pretty good way to play also. And you know how I know that? Go look at the numbers from January. So like I'm sorry, I don't know that I could get behind that Tibbs has grown this season. Tibbs has always been a great coach. It comes down to the talent and it comes down to the other players around him and what you need, what you're forced to do by the circumstances that you're placed in. Thanks, Huber. John Fishman, Tibbs needs a day off tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Why? Because he's pissed at how they closed the game? Of course he's pissed at how they closed the game. That's Tom Thibodeau. That's why this team is what it is. Because he doesn't give a shit that they were up by 30 points. He expects every guy, no matter who you are, no matter what spot on the bench you occupy. And by the way, all the guys that were in the game are guys who are like rotation players for them. They just didn't have any of their top guys in. Well, actually, they had DiVincenzo in and Hardenstein. But like, obviously, Brunson wasn't in, Hart wasn't in, OG wasn't in. And someone on Twitter replied to a comment that I made about how Tibbs was pissed after they went on a run in the third or the fourth quarter. Someone on Twitter responded. I don't know if they meant to do it, but they were like, the standard is the standard. And that is a quote from a guy who I also doesn't think gets enough credit, but has been one of the preeminent head coaches in professional sports for the last 20 years, and that's Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin doesn't give a crap who's out there on the field playing for the Steelers. He has said it for years. The standard is the standard. For Tom Thibodeau, the standard is the standard. And if you do not uphold the standard, doesn't matter how many points your team is up, he's not going to be happy. And because of that standard, that is why the Knicks are where they are. In addition to having Jalen Brunson, who, by the way, guess who embodies that ideal more than anyone on the roster? Jalen Brunson. The standard is the standard. That's it. Thanks, John. Kevin, what's going on, Kev? Appreciate you again, man. If JB isn't first team, it's robbery. He will, of course, because some silly narrative. 6th in EPM after tonight with Embiid first, who doesn't qualify. Offensive numbers there, too. I'd probably put him as a slight favorite over Tatum at this point. Slight favorite. You know what I want to look up real quick? Sorry, not to a quick sidebar here. So Devin Booker, a few years ago, he was on a Suns team that I believe they won 60 games. I'm going to double 62 games, maybe. I'll double check that right now. The 21-22 Phoenix Suns won 64 games. Excuse me. I shortchanged them 2 wins. The Celtics team could still win 64 games, but whatever. It was 64 wins, like not a whole lot of team. Like you could go a few years in the NBA without seeing a team win 64 games. Devin Booker finished 4th in MVP that year and obviously was made first team All-NBA. But that team was a very clear. Booker was number 1. CP3 was thought of as like the leader, so to speak. He finished, I believe, higher than Booker in MVP voting the year before. I think I want to say CP3 finished like 7th in MVP voting the previous year. But like by that point, like Booker had like just very clearly ascended him as like, okay, this is the guy for the Suns. And then there was Paul. And then you had like Ayton and McCall as like the 3A and the 3B, but like none of, I think Mikal was still looked at as like, oh yeah, he's like one of the best role players in the NBA, but he's definitively a role player. The reason I'm going through that is because I think when you look at this Celtics team, I think people will look at them as a team with 5 guys who are capable of making an all-star team, 2 of which obviously made the all-star team and are, I don't know if Brown's going to make it this year. If he doesn't make it, he's going to be 16th or 17th in the voting for All-NBA. Porzingis had a real all-star case. White had a real all-star case. And who am I forgetting? Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is going to be on the freaking Olympic team. He has sacrificed maybe as much as anyone this year as far as like counting stats. But like that dude, didn't he make the all-star team last year or something? Like whatever. Like he's an all, like they have 5 all-star caliber players on their team. Maybe White is the one guy you're like, is he really an all-star caliber player? If you want to talk about advanced stats, the advanced stats say that, yeah, he's an all-star caliber player. The Suns didn't have that. So Booker got up to 4th. I'm trying to like rationalize this with myself. I wonder if voters are going to see that top 5, and then you want to throw in Harford and, as a real good 6-man and be like, do I need to give Jason Tatum a top 5 spot just because this team was far and away the best team in the league this year? With that top 5, I don't know that they will. I don't know that Tatum was awesome. I don't know if he was to that level of awesome, especially when I think if you would have, there was a solid month and a half stretch over the latter part of this season, maybe like right around the All-Star, on either side of the All-Star break, where Jaylen Brown was better of the 2 players. So I think he gets 5th. I think Brunson gets 5th. In MVP, maybe 4th, and I think he gets the final All-NBA spot for first team. Yeah. Thanks, Kev. Rich McLeod, more like Smeltics. I see what you did there. That's a good one. Very good, Rich. Danny Small, what's going on, Danny? How you doing, brother? Call me crazy, but the Knicks should want the 2 seed and the Heat in the first round. Exercise those demons early, like Milwaukee did in 2021. The Knicks are a better team, but Spo is good. Again, I'll refer to someone who is just exponentially smarter when it comes to the game of basketball than me. When I talked to Steve Jones Jr. the other day, and we were talking about potential playoff matchups, he was like, I don't know if I'd be dying for the Heat if I were the Knicks. Now, that said, I have not seen an update recently on Terry Rozier, which, of course, I'm going to type right now and take a look. He was questionable versus the Hawks in their last game. He's questionable for tomorrow's game against the Raptors. So, okay. Rozier, he'll be fine for the playoffs. That was the only thing that I wanted to look at because Rozier, I mean, they just need him to generate offense because I mean, they have Hero back, so that helps, but I don't know. Do I want the Heat in the first round? Fuck. I don't know, man. Seeing them come out against the Heat the other day, it's like, look, if we get them, I love the opportunity to exercise those demons. Am I gunning for them? I can't say that I'm there with you right now. But then again, I have, like, my rankings right now would probably be, I prefer to play Orlando first. I got to say, maybe Cleveland second. Is it wild that I would think about putting Milwaukee next, depending on where Giannis is at? Is that crazy? I even, like, to me, they're actually, if I know I'm not getting Giannis until like game 5 or game 6 of that series, I have Milwaukee and Cleveland pretty close together in terms of the teams that I'd want to play. Although I do think Milwaukee could be scary. And then probably the Pacers and then the Heat. It's probably It's probably the order. And then last would be the Sixers. But reasonable minds could differ on all that. Look, they're going to have to play well to win whoever they play. Thanks, Danny. Zach Lello, what's going on, man? Put this in Substack earlier. Apologies, I missed. I don't generally pay too close of attention to Substack during the games because I'm trying to focus. But if you're another star in this league, how many guys would you pick over him to compete for chips? Best player to wear blue and orange in my lifetime. I'm wondering, I don't know how debatable that's becoming. Oh, Juanon, you're in camp. Oh, you're fighting. Oh, okay, cool. Congratulations to you. Sorry, I just saw Juanon message me what he's been doing. You know what I think it puts JB above basically all these guys? He's already shown the ability to be a number 2. You know? And that's number 1. And more importantly, he is the most unselfish when it comes to what is best for the team. Forget about what is best for me, what is best for the team. I don't think that there's another superstar out there other than maybe Steph Curry and him are 1A and 1B in that respect. And how do you know that? Because when Steph Curry had a chance to recruit Kevin Durant, who he knew Kevin Durant came with baggage. And when Kevin Durant's on your team, it's about Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant likes to have things Kevin Durant's way, and he is clearly a finicky personality, and he's very emotional and needs to be pampered and needs to be, caressed very gently because you don't want to upset Kevin Durant. And how do I know all this, by the way? Because every fucking team Kevin Durant has ever been on in the course of his career, the Nets, the Suns, the Thunder, they've never done anything. But Steph Curry recognized the talent, and Steph Curry wanted the talent, and he knew because of the talent, he's like, I'll take a back seat for a few years. It's fine. And he did, and they won 2 championships. And Kevin Durant was instrumental because Kevin Durant is one of the 5 most gifted offensive basketball players to ever step foot on the planet Earth. I think only Steph Curry belongs in that conversation in terms of true selflessness when it comes to doing whatever it takes to win. And I think another star would see that. And we'll see if that sort of thing transpires. Thanks, Zach. Seth Kaufman, CEO. What's going on, Seth? John, you strike a perfect balance between objective, grounded in your analysis of the Knicks. Well, I try. I try. And romantic about this team and its history. Thank you for everything. Man, stop. Thank you, Seth. I really appreciate that. I don't know what to say that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's what I try to do, and I'm glad you think. Glad someone out there thinks I'm doing an okay job of it. Stevens Guillaume. Can we talk about Bogey, John? Absolutely. I mean, I hope in a good way. I know, again, the fourth quarter got a little silly. What we saw from Bojan Bogdanovic in the first half, did he even score? Hold on, I'm pulling up his first half stats right now. Oh, please tell me I took a picture. Okay. First half stats for Bogey: 5 of 9 from the field, 2 of 6 from deep, 12 points. I did not note the plus minus. I think he was something like a plus 18 or a plus 20 or whatever. I think it was plus 18. It's the best he's looked. It's the best he's looked as a Knick, and that's the second or third time in the last week and change that I could say, oh, that's the best Bogey's looked as a Knick. They need it. They're not going when we're talking about bring on this team, bring on that team. They need him to beat those teams. They need him to survive the non-Brunson minutes. And more than that, they need him on the court with Brunson. Because Jalen Brunson is doing so freaking much on every possession he's in the game most of the time. If you can alleviate that load even a little bit, with another guy who can just do something, who can take a guy off the dribble, who can, make a really tough shot, and defenses know he can make tough shots. Like, Bogey puts a little bit of extra pressure, and what I'm waiting to see, and what I want to see more, and like they got involved. There were a couple instances tonight where there was a two-man action at the top involving Brunson and Bogey. I don't really know what that much came of it, but I want to see more stuff involved with them, because having those two guys involved together in the same action, that I think that'll put a lot of pressure on opposing defenses. I also want to read a stat, and I meant to say this before, and I didn't get to it. Anunoby is from DJ Zula. Anunoby and Hartenstein played 21 minutes and 5 seconds together tonight. The Knicks had a defensive rating of 78.6 in the minutes that they played together. They outscored Boston 53-33. Their defense is a motherfucker. Who is it? Kobe White said the other day Jalen Brunson was a motherfucker. Well, their defense with OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein as the linchpins, with Josh Hart as the third guy, DiVincenzo was the fourth guy. And man, again, you want to talk about moments of the game. When Jaylen Brown, this actually, you know what? This might be my favorite moment of the game. When Jaylen Brown had Jalen Brunson on an island out on the 3-point arc, and he put one move on, Brunson was there for it. He put another move on, Brunson was there for it. He put a third move on, Brunson was there for it. And finally he drove because he was out of moves. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm going in. And what happened? Brunson drew the charge and it was a different kind of charge than he usually draws. Most of the charges Brunson draws, he is there, like the guy starts driving, he's there ahead of time. And he plants, and that was the one that got the challenge. Tibbs used the challenge. Call got overturned later in the second half. This was different. This was Brunson holding his ground, and Brown was like, enough of this, and pushed him out of the way and got called for the foul. And I think he may have attempted the shot and missed the shot anyway. That's your worst defender. That's your worst defender on a freaking all-star and a guy who has a decent chance to make third-team All-NBA. That's the shit that makes me like, yeah, you know what? He is a top 5 player. And he absolutely deserves to be first-team All-NBA. Is it his strong suit? Is it why he's out there? No. But, like, what did Steph Curry have to do for all those years? Just keep the offense honest. Keep the offense honest. If you're going to hunt me, I'm going to make you earn it. And I think teams are going to hunt Brunson, but he's going to be there for it. I don't know how I got off on this tangent. Your comments about Bojan Bogdanovic. I'm sorry. Bogey was awesome, but for whatever reason that I got off on that tangent about Brunson, I hope you don't mind. Giovanni Mistretto, what's going on? The Jim Beam commercial where the whole bar is singing Sweet Caroline is hitting different tonight. Fuck Boston. 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't give a fuck. Love JB. Love this team. Let's freaking go Knicks. I love it. 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 Yeah. I think Boston's going to be okay. I would be very surprised if they did not begin the playoffs looking more like the team that has been around for most of the season. And if they build up a head of steam, they can be dangerous. Then again, when does that team ever build up a head of steam? They never built up a head of steam last year. They got past Philly in a series that was maybe dicier than it should have been. Then they did what they had to do in game 7, game 6 and 7. Joel Embiid helped them out a little bit, as did James Harden. But and then the conference finals, they obviously came up blank. And then the year before that, I mean, they did hit their stride, but they hit their stride against a Bucks team that was missing Chris Middleton, and even that series had to go 7 games. I thought that series said a lot more about the Bucks than it did about the Celtics. And then the Heat almost got him in the Eastern Conference Finals. So this team doesn't I don't know. I feel like they don't get on rolls in the playoffs, which see what happens. Thanks, Giovanni. Booger11, great name. I thought you said we had a limited ceiling without Julius Randle. I did. I absolutely did. And I think I may have to eat those words. This team, here's what I didn't see coming. I didn't see them completely revamping their offense. And what we are seeing right now, what we have seen for a little while now, and now with OG, but here's the other thing. With OG coming in and talk about seamless entry into the starting lineup. And gives them the extra shooter, obviously, where we're not, and that's not, that's no shade on Deuce. Deuce was awesome. Fantastic shooting. OG doesn't have him there, but what OG adds to the defensive end, and he just having that bigger body puts more pressure on a defense too. When you have that dude moving around and 6'8" of however many pounds he is coming at you. Man, they're good. They're really good. Thanks, Booger. Kenneth Escalona. What's going on, Kenneth? I missed most of the game, but whoa, the Nova Knicks, pure dogs, cool running. The last 5 feels like an experiment for a 10-man rotation. Precious. GFK. GFK. I don't know what GFK is. Kev, if you know what GFK means, let me know, because I'm drawing a blank. So the last 5 of the first half. Well, actually, let me take a step back. Tibbs will never play a 10-man rotation. What we saw at the end of the first half was DiVincenzo, Brunson, DiVincenzo. No, sorry, it was that he put. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He put Hart and DiVincenzo in with a minute and change to go. Precious came in when there was 4 and change to go, so it was about 3 minutes. So for about 3 minutes, you had Brunson and OG with Hartenstein, Precious, and Bogdanović. I do not think it is an accident that in the minutes that Precious Achiuwa played, and again, I think he was just trying to buy some time for Hart, you had the Knicks' 3 most important players out there on the floor in Brunson, OG Anunoby, and Isaiah Hartenstein. And if you want to say that DiVincenzo should be in that conversation, Bogdanović on offense at least gives you a pretty close approximation to what DiVincenzo does. So maybe that was a bit of an audition for hey, if I need a few minutes of you, if I need a few minutes from you in a key game, can you give it to me? And I thought the minutes looked okay. I didn't love the 3. When did he take that 3? I think he took that 3 at the end of the first half, right? Didn't love that. But no, it's fine. And the GFK stands for, oh, wait, no, this is Kevin. Kevin is typing in the chat. To me, GFK is Ghostface Killer. That's great. Are you from Staten Island? Because I'm from Staten Island, and that's kind of what it is to me, too. Anyway. So, yeah, maybe we'll get an 8.5-man rotation. Who knows? Thanks, Kenneth. Kevin with another one. I hope the Knicks give Julius a chance to get standing ovation over the next 2. Just have him at the game and show him on the scoreboard. Yeah, that'd be cool. Sure, I'm here for it. Absolutely. Good thought by you. Jessica Elsner, what's going on, Jessica? Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. That is the Ghetto Boys. It's a good quote. And Jalen Brunson, why not now? Hashtag get that chip. Love the energy, love the spirit. This team does feel kind of gangster at the moment, doesn't it? What is that? What defines if an NBA team is playing like a bunch of like they're gangster? I don't know. It's a badass attitude. It's a physical presence. It's a confidence. It's a certain swagger. It's you're gonna have to bring it for 48 minutes if you're gonna beat us tonight. It's knowing you got a dude and knowing that you have enough to win on any given night. That's the swagger part. And yeah, I think it's feeling pretty good for the Knicks. I mean, these guys seem like they're having a blast, which is it's probably not a coincidence. Thanks, Jessica. Max Cyril. I hope Cyril. One of those. Thank you for the generous contribution, my friend. John GMAC. Curious if you could pick one to return for the playoffs, which would it be? Oh, I think I'm going to like this question. Mitch, early season defense. 2, Bogey, prior year shooting, scoring. 3, Hart's 3-point percentage volume from the end of last season. Thanks. What a great question. This is the best question I've gotten in a while. So I'm So I'm going to put Hart's. So here's the thing. Hart's volume was never really high. Even at the end of last season. Like I'll go back and I'll double check it. But like after Josh Hart came to the Knicks, after averaging 2.1 3-point attempts in 30 minutes a game with the excuse me, that's wrong. After averaging 2.2 3-point attempts a game with the Blazers in 33 minutes of action, his 3-point volume actually went down in New York. It went down over the 25 games to 2.1. So the volume wasn't there. I understand he was a 52% shooter from deep after he came to the Knicks, but nobody ever guarded him out there. So on that volume, he didn't fundamentally change their offense because nobody ever guarded him and teams invited him to shoot. And then you saw in the playoffs that really hurt them. So that's an easy third for me. Now, if you're telling me Josh Hart's going to turn into fucking, Dante DiVincenzo, that's a different story. But that's not what you're saying here. So that goes third. Now, the Bogey, do I get to keep what I've got in the last few games? If I pick from Bogey, if I pick the Mitch answer? If you're it's a much tougher question if you're like if you pick Mitch, you're getting the version of Bogdanović that we saw for like most of the time since the Detroit trade, which is not very good player. I think that would make it a tougher question for me. I'm still going to go with Mitch with the caveat that you're not just talking about the early season defense. You're talking about the early season offensive rebounding and being able to convert those offensive rebounds into buckets either by putbacks himself or by kicking it out to shooters. Because what we've seen, and we saw a little bit early on in this game, I mean, my God, there was an offensive rebound that Mitch got where I couldn't tell if he fumbled the ball, but he couldn't get it out. He couldn't get a shot off. He couldn't get it. And he just fell down. I think it was in the first half, and I've never seen that before from him. And then as he fell down, he kind of kicked it out. And so I think if the question is just you're giving me the version of Mitchell Robinson that existed over the first however many 20-something games of the year, that's the answer. Even if it means that you're going back to really bad Bogey, because at the end of the day, even if I'm getting bad Bogey, if I got that version of Mitch and I got 48 minutes of that level of center play, I think I could get by with the four perimeters, the other four starters, plus Deuce given me, 25, 26, 28 minutes off the bench, and then maybe, and again, you're like, the floor for Bogey here it was not the Alec Burks floor, right? It was like, oh man, there were really frustrating nights where he just didn't have it, but he still keeps defenses honest. Defenses still respect him. You're can you survive 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes a game with the bad version of Bogey that we've gotten? Maybe, hopefully, but it's a super easy question if I'm getting the version of Bogey that we're seeing now. Then it's not even a question. But yeah, so that was a good question. I really like that. Maybe go through the process. Thank you, Zach Lella. That was Chris Jenkins on the putback with Ian Begley. Sorry, I forgot who he was. Booger 11. Julius Randle stops the ball, negative on D, fool's gold. Well, I mean, three-time All-Star. Three-time All-Star. He was voted in as a reserve by the coaches each time. So you're saying that the other that 30 NBA coaches are wrong when they're looking at that dude and they're like, yeah, he's pretty good, but or they're basically like overlooking all of these negatives to just latch on to some positives. Why? Because they want to do the Knicks some favors? No. Like, is it always great on defense? No, it's not. Is there times when he stops the ball? Yes. Are there some frustrating turnovers you got to deal with? Absolutely. Does Julius Randle's play elevate when you increase the level of talent around him? Absolutely. Did we see that play out over the course of January when they were the best team in the league? Absolutely. Did Julius Randle stick out like a sore thumb in any way, shape, or form during that January stretch? Absolutely not. So, no offense, Booger, but you're barking up the wrong tree here. Is there a version of this team next year that doesn't contain Julius Randle that's a better version of the team that had Julius? Yeah, it's possible. But to just automatically be like, oh, they don't need him. I'll tell you this right fucking now. I would kill to have Julius Randle with this version of this team. Because guess what? Even if I'm only getting him for limited minutes because he's recovering from injury or whatever, to have the ability to throw that dude out there for 24 minutes a night, oh, man. What a luxury that would be. What a luxury that would be. Okay, let's move on. We got a low post that just dropped. Oh, this is exciting. I'm gonna have to listen to this before I write my newsletter. Armand Bernadage, what's going on? Boston coach with bulletin board material post-game. He said the Knicks were desperate. Also, Tibbs isn't jobless. He's a maniac. Big difference. Joyless. He's a maniac. Yeah, he is a maniac. He's an insane person. And that's why I love him. I heard that. Mazzulla says a lot of weird shit. And I think that's part of why there's still, even with this team with 62 wins and the whole thing, I think there's still a little bit of the Clueless Joe thing with him, where clearly he's a great X's and O's coach. He's a great tactician. The lineups are good. He puts his guys in position to succeed. He identifies when they're not doing certain things right. But I don't know. A lot of the stuff he says rubs me the wrong way. And then when you look at how this team has a tendency at times to maybe not crumble, but not come through in the big spot, I wonder if those two things are correlated. But whatever. All that's besides the point. The Knicks don't need bulletin board material because they have a maniac for a head coach. Thanks, Armin. Jason Feldman, what's going on, Jason? Idea I'm toying with. Hart has evolved into mini 30. When I'm watching Josh Hart, man, the only guy that I'm seeing is Draymond Green. And I know you're referring to Julius Randle. Draymond doesn't wear number 30, right? I should know that. I don't know uniform numbers for shit. It's good. I'm lucky I know Randle. No, Draymond's 23. I see Draymond. I see Draymond as a guy who is a really nice pick and roll partner for Brunson, as a guy who, if you do, he's not creating offense for himself. He's not going to be gunning from three, but if you give him an inch, he's gonna take a mile. Obviously, Josh Hart's a much better player at transition. Not as good of a passer as Draymond, although he's a really good passer for his position, especially. He's not the defensive player that Draymond is, obviously, but like in terms of his role on this offense recently, I see, to me, I see a lot of Draymond. Julius is defined. The definition of Julius Randle is if he could back down basically anyone in the league, and the opposing coach is going to want to put two on the ball. That's Julius. Thanks, Jason. Ryan Janacek. Let's fucking go Knicks. I think Tibbs did a better job this year. Do you think Tibbs did a better job this year or in 2021? Should win Coach of the Year this year as well. He will have those 8th graders we play crying. Thank you and Andrew for great content all season. It's our pleasure, Ryan. We love doing this, and we're lucky to be able to do it. Better year this year or that year. I really don't know how to answer that question, because on one hand, I look at that year and I want to say that was low-hanging fruit. That was, like Ime Udoka going into Houston this year, taking over what was really, and it wasn't even close, the worst coach team in the league. Now, Mike Miller is a respectable coach. Mike Miller did what he could. But that whole situation was a fucking disaster when Tibbs walked in, and he, like, I don't have to talk to you about the tone that Tibbs sets, but like, you could use your imagination as to what the tone was from day one, and how every single person in that building was like, oh, okay, so this is what we're doing now. Got it. Great. So that's like, that was a I don't know, a 10 or 15 or whatever win improvement right there. Right there. Aside from that, I mean, he just centered the offense around Julius and was like, we're going to go with this. But then, for as much as that's hard to do. We take it for granted because that's Tibbs. But like, a lot of coaches will try to walk in on day one and reset the tone for their organization, and the players will be like, F this. But with Tibbs, like, you can't do that. You don't have the choice to do that. I think Julius Randle played a big part in that. And I think, which is why we always go back and forth about, like, Tibbs giving Julius too much rope. I think he always appreciated and will always continue to appreciate the fact that Julius bought in from day one. And he, like, I don't know if all of this would have worked if Julius didn't buy in. So, but all this is to say that when you look at this year, yeah, he's done a great job, but he's also had Jalen Brunson. He didn't have Jalen Brunson on that team. And with all due respect to Julius Randle, finished second team All-NBA, 8th place in MVP voting. Like, this is a different animal, what he's getting now with this guy. So, I don't know, man. That's tough. It's really tough. I don't have a great answer for you. I mean, flip a coin is my honest answer. Should he win Coach of the Year this year? Man, if the Magic slide down to like the play-in, that shouldn't reflect on Mosley, but it might. What Chris Finch has done the last few weeks with no Towns, it's been super impressive. I'll say this: he needs to be on the ballot. I think he needs to be on the ballot. I was kind of going back and forth between him, Willie Green, Missoula, Finch. Like Dagnall's the only guy who's like guaranteed to get on the ballot. I think Tibbs should get on the ballot. I think Mosley should be on the ballot too. Mosley's done an outstanding job. Thanks, Ryan. Dylan D'Andrea, what's going on, Dylan? We used to have Jared Jack and Ramon sessions at the point. These are good times, folks. So, see if I could pull this off really, really, really quick. I'm gonna give you some of the luminaries. Now, some of these guys were nice players, to be clear. Some of these guys were nice players. But I'm going to give you some of the luminaries that have manned the point guard position for your New York Knickerbockers at times over the years. You mentioned Raymond Felton's actually one of the better ones. Chris Duhon. You mentioned Jared Jack. Chauncey Billups was good in his brief time here, so no shade against him. Brandon Jennings. Elfrid Payton. Baron Davis on his last legs was still pretty good. Jose Calderon, who could forget that? Howard Isley. Was Howard Isley technically a point guard? I don't know if Howard Isley was technically a point guard. Yeah, he was a point guard. He's a point guard enough. Let's see who else we got here. Emmanuel Mudiay. Oh, goodness. How could I forget Emmanuel Mudiay? Dennis Smith Jr. reclaimed his career in Boston, good, or in Brooklyn. Good for him. But still, Dennis Smith Jr. Oh, boy. Was this guy a point guard? I think he was. Yeah, he was. Bino Udrih. Do you remember? Friends. The 31 games of Bino Udrih during the 2014 NBA season. Kemba Walker, who could forget that lovely experience. Kadeem Allen. Remember we were all going apeshit over Kadeem Allen? Or maybe that was just me. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, like, Shane Larkin. Shane Larkin actually represented himself well. And then I find I'm going through all the Knicks point or guys who have averaged at least 3 assists a game. And here's the guy who I bet you if you asked a lot of Knicks fans, who's the best Knicks point guard over the time from the 90s to Jalen Brunson, I bet you a lot of people would say Pablo Prigioni. So no shade on Pablo. Pablo was great. But yeah, man, that's where we were. To say nothing of like, Frank Ntilikina and like, we all loved Frank Island, but like, come on. Different times now. Thanks, Dylan. OG team, what's going on, man? Honestly, whoever we play besides the Cavs, the Knicks will be viewed as the underdogs unless something stupid happens like Atlanta or Chicago wins out. I don't agree with that. I think the Knicks will be viewed as somewhat heavy favorites if they play the Magic. I think they will be viewed as favorites against the Cavs. I wonder if they'd be viewed as favorites against the Heat. I don't know if they'd be viewed. I think they'd be viewed as favorites against the Heat, but I think it would be close. And the Pacers are the one they'd be viewed as dogs. They'd have home court. No, I think the Knicks would be favored. I think the Knicks would be favored against the Pacers. I think it'd be close, but I think they'd be favored. I think a lot of people will be picking a 7-game series. Thanks, OG team. Eric Silver, what's going on, Eric? Hey, KFS, big fans for a long time. You guys are the best at what you do. Keep it up. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that. We try our best. I promise we try our best. And we always do it with the best of intentions. I could almost promise you that. Also promise you that. Today is my 24th birthday. No better way to end today. #BrunsHim MVP. Well, happy birthday, Eric. 24. I feel like I owe you some life advice as someone who is not quite about to have those digits flipped around. I'm turning 41 in what is it? In less than a month. My God. So 24. Have fun, enjoy it. Travel if you can. That's the biggest. Travel, eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want. I'm sitting here, I got a fucking cardiologist appointment scheduled because like I'm getting to the age where like, bad cholesterol is a thing. I just got a prescribed vitamin D medication because I went for my physical a few weeks ago. Like it sucks when you start getting older, man. So really just do not treat your body like a temple at 24. Treat it like the opposite of a temple. Treat it like a garbage dump and take full advantage because the bill's going to be coming due anyway, one way or the other. So you might as well have some fun now. Safely, obviously. But happy birthday, man. Vince N. What's going on, Vince? Thank you for the very generous contribution. Thanks, John, and the KFS team for making this season even more special. If Bogey plays like he's been over the last few games, it makes the non-Brunson minutes tolerable. Completely agree. Bit of a backstep in against the Bulls, but fantastic effort in the game before that. And I want to say I'll try to look up his updated stats right now, actually, because he deserves it. So I'll work on that. Yeah, but no, they need him, and I think it's more than just about the non-Brunson minutes because the non-Brunson minutes. What are we talking about in the playoffs? The non-Brunson minutes are going to be like 7 minutes a game. That's what the non-Brunson minutes are going to be. So I think it's more than just the non-Brunson minutes. But I agree with you. That's absolutely the most important thing that he can contribute. And it's comfort. I think it's pairing him with Anunoby. Actually, let me make sure. So tonight, Bogey came in, and it was Bogey, DiVincenzo, Hart, Deuce, and Mitch, which is probably not the lineup that I think I would go with Bogey most of the time. Now, he kept Bogey in after he brought JB back, Brunson, and then after he brought OG Anunoby back. Bogey played a lot of those minutes. And then same thing in the Bogey came in to start the fourth quarter, came in for actually Jalen Brunson. So I like pairing Bogdanovic with OG Anunoby. I kind of thought we were heading in the direction of every minute Bogdanovic is going to play, he's going to play with OG Anunoby. Maybe that's not the case. But I like that pairing in particular. And I feel more comfortable with it with Hartenstein as well. Anyway, last 10 games. This is the last 10 games, including tonight. Bojan Bogdanovic, 11 points, 52.4% from the field, 38.9% from deep, and 75% from the line. And just because I have it up, Jalen Brunson's last 10 games, if everybody was wondering, 36.2 points a game on 50, 40, 85. Really got to get those free throws up, Jalen. Really, you're slacking there, buddy. And 7.8 assists per game. Oh, again, this is over the last 10 games. That is absolutely, and it's not close, the leading scorer in the NBA over the last 10 games, followed by Cade Cunningham, who has only played 3 of the last 10 games, and then Luka Doncic, who's averaging 32.2 points in the last 10 games. Capital S superstar. Thanks, Vince. Alex, what's going on, Alex? Other teams keep playing your full squads against us, and this is what happens. Beating Boston was an item I wanted to check off, so very pleased tonight. I wonder how important it was for the Knicks to check it off. I'm not asking. I'm just like I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I'm sure it feels good to go into Boston Garden and win. I wonder how much they cared. I just think they wanted to win. I just think they wanted to win. Keep winning all the way into next week. It was nice to see. It was nice to see, for sure. Thanks, Alex. Cynic. Is there a way to keep this band together minus Precious Burks and Bogey's money? Yeah, for sure, man. I'm going to save my article about it. I actually wrote it a few months ago at this point, looking at all the teams this summer that have cap space that could make a play for Isaiah Hartenstein, because that's the only guy that they're real at risk of losing. And to me, there is no team out there that is an obvious threat for Isaiah Hartenstein who will go and again dip into cap space and give him something like 4 years and $72 million, which I think is the sort of deal that it would take to get him away from the Knicks. But there are teams that could very well be interested. Also, I want to apologize because I really strive not to do this, but I have now twice actually said false information on here, which is that the Knicks could offer Hartenstein a 5th year. And I said that because I was like, the CBA changed the rules, and now you don't have to go to the max to give someone a 5-year deal. You can go to the max with less than the max and give someone a 5-year deal. What I conveniently forgot, and why the Knicks are limited to a starting salary next year of $14.3 million, 14.32 plus incentives with Hartenstein, is that he's an early bird free agent. So if someone's an early bird free agent, unless I'm wrong again, and they changed that in the new CBA, which I don't believe they did, the most years you could give someone, if you don't have their full bird rights, is still 4 years. So thank you to Jonas P., who is a rock star in the KFS Substack chat. Shout out to all my Knicks Film School newsletter subscribers. You guys are awesome. You continue to, drive me to cover this team as best as I can every day. So shout out to Jonas for pointing that out. So yeah, the most I could offer him is a 4-year deal. I still think that should be enough. They could still go to, I'll pull it up right now quick because I just actually had it up a little while ago earlier today. They could give him a nice amount of money. Here, I got it right here. This is scintillating podcasting, I know. So they could go to 4 years, $65 million about in base salary, with about $5 million in incentives. And that's over a full 4-year deal with max 8% raises. So, and his incentives are likely incentives. He hit all of his incentives this year. So they could build those incentives back in and essentially make it a more or less a 4-year, $70 million deal. That's a lot of freaking money. Is there going to be a team that is really going to come and blow that out of the water? I don't know. I hope not. Thanks, Cynic. Sekou Burmis. What's going on, Sekou? Was in Boston for work and got tickets to the game. I just walked an hour back to the hotel on cloud 9. Oh, man. Those walks are the best, dude. Those walks are it's just the best walk in the world. It's where you just experience Nirvana, and then you go out to walk around in a city, and you're just like, I haven't had one of those in a while. It's a good one. They strangled this team and put TD to sleep. Thank you for not calling it TD Garden, because it's not the Garden. Incredible to see in person. Hashtag why not now? Hashtag let's go Knicks. I love it. Absolutely love it. So really cool that you got to watch that. And I think we got one more from Sekou. A few other observations. Love it. Tibbs is an effing maniac. You needed to be there in person to see that? When he let out a in the fourth quarter with I don't know how many minutes were left when he called one of the timeouts, and he was like, "Come on, men, Jesus fucking Christ," which Jesus fucking Christ is his go-to phrase because Brunson told us that in a recent interview. So yeah, OG is huge. Yeah, he is, and that makes a difference. JB is really him. And Celtics fans know their team is soft. They are worried about the playoffs. If true, hashtag why not now? Thank you for bumping the gear again. For anybody who may be tuning in late on the live stream, check out. There's a link in the episode description to what you're watching. Our playoff merch just dropped, so get yourself some why not now playoff gear. Courtesy of Knicks Film School. Yeah, I'm sure they're worried. I mean, have Celtics fans earned the right to be worried? I think given this team's issues over the years, and given the fact that they have not really solved them, I'm talking about the late game stuff mostly. I think they can be worried. That's fine. That's fair. You're allowed to be worried, Celtics fans, because you need my permission. Thanks, Sekou. Really appreciate the generosity on top of what I'm sure was just an awesome night. And we got two here from Danny Gardner. I'm going to read them both before I comment because apparently they are connected. Thank you, Kevin. Danny, there has never been more talent in the NBA than there is right now. Tons of guys have had unreal seasons. The degree to which Brunson has dominated and stood out is crazy. All of the Celtics tried to guard him in that third. No one had a chance. He cooked them all. I love that you made this point. Because yes, it's an offense first league, but as we've talked about, last couple months, the rules have changed and they're calling the game differently. And I just read off, dude's out here averaging 30, 36 and 8. Like, that's what James Harden did during his MVP season. Or was it the season after his MVP season? I forget. He did it once. No one has an answer. You have to hope he's not hitting threes, because if he's not hitting threes and you kind of get the sense that he doesn't want to take threes, you can guard him a little bit differently. You're still susceptible, obviously. But again, here's the thing that I love. It's not him standing around and going one-on-one or going one-on-two and going whatever, and a bunch of other guys standing there. Everybody's moving. And you know who else is moving? Is Jalen Brunson is moving. And I love, and I wish I had shouted it out earlier in this show, and it's a bad job by me that I didn't shout it out earlier. I apologize. Fred Katz, who, yeah, I'm favorable to Fred because he comes on the show all the time and I make fun of him and he makes fun of me and we have a great time together. But Fred Katz is as good as there is anybody out there who is covering a team in the way that he covers this team, which is to write insightful, analytically driven, but also just like this human interest stories that in all of his pieces, and his writing is second to none and all of that. He wrote just a fantastic piece this week about Jalen Brunson and how Jalen Brunson, unlike a lot of other stars in the NBA, who from the day, that they, like from when they were in their grade school teams, it was kind of bookmarked that they were going to be a prodigy and one of those sorts of guys. And those guys didn't need to work on a bunch of the stuff that Jalen Brunson needed to work at. And because Jalen Brunson did not have that destiny in front of him, and because his dad is who his dad is, he worked on stuff that a lot of other guys who eventually become NBA superstars don't have to work on. And that included off-ball movement. And so when you're talking about all the ways that the Celtics tried to guard him, it's like when you got him moving around like he's moving around, and you got Hartenstein setting screens, and he's an outlet, and Josh Hart setting screens, and he's an outlet, and Anunoby getting involved in actions, and DiVincenzo, who's the hottest shooter alive, one of the best shooters in the league now, getting involved in these actions. Like, what are you left with if he's going to make it? Because once he gets to that spot, you're done. You're done. It doesn't matter what you've done on the possession up until that point. You're done. And then if he's hitting threes, well, then it's 40. And then the other point that you made about all the talent in the league, again, this isn't I'm literally going to do this going down the standings. I promise I will not take too long doing this, but I feel it's required to do it. Let me try to keep count as I'm doing this. I'm just going to read off names. I'm going down the standings. It's not in any order other than the order of I see these guys in the standings, okay? Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, Jalen Brunson. I'm not going to say guys who don't you know what? I am going to say guys who qualify for All NBA who don't qualify for All NBA, but like would have qualified if they had played enough games, because I feel like it'll make the exercise a little bit more fruitful. Donovan Mitchell, Paolo Banchero, Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, DeMar DeRozan, Trae Young. No, you don't get to be in this conversation if you don't make the playoffs. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not throwing anybody else from Thunder in there quite yet. Kawhi, James Harden, Paul George, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry. And you could throw in like a Lauri Markkanen and a Wemby. They deserve to be mentioned. Those guys are really freaking good. Ja Morant, who didn't play this year. Alperen Sengun, probably throw him in there too. You want to throw in Scotty Barnes. So that's 5. I gave you 5 names from non-playoff teams. I was keeping track. I just named 40 guys. I just named 40 guys who play in the league right now who at some point during this year, someone out there who like is like a legit, like some people out there who are legitimate people who cover the sport and think about the sport said something like, well, that guy's a that guy's a top 15 player in the league. That guy's got to get All NBA consideration this year. Maybe not Ja Morant because, he's suspended, but everybody else like that, we have to really start talking about this guy in the conversation for All NBA, right? Like, how people phrase this. I've phrased things in this nature. Oh, shit. I didn't even mention Julius Randle. Julius Randle, 41. You get the point. There's a shitload of talent out there. So for us to have arrived at the place where we are sitting here and being like, he's not in the top 20. He's not in the top 15. He's not in the top 10. He's in the top 5. And we could sit here and we could say that with a straight face. Shit. It's a good place to be. I know that. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate that little exercise that you got me to do. Alex, earlier comment. Okay. I think Tibbs leaning on Deuce and not playing Burks anymore is a sign of growth. We saw 2 years ago that he didn't do this with Emmanuel quickly. I think, okay, here's what I'll tell you. Tibbs is always going to lean on his vets. Generally. Unless his vets give him a reason not to lean on them. The thing that what made that season insanely frustrating is Alec Burks as a point guard was not great, needless to say. But like there was a not insignificant amount of data that the team with Alec Burks as the starting point guard was like, okay. Like the net rating was good. And then the thing was, it's like this team is going nowhere. You know what Alec Burks is. More importantly, you know what Alec Burks isn't. We have this kid on the bench. Just let him, like, give him a chance, you know? And he kept going with the surer, in his mind, the surer commodity. Do I think that was a little bit reflective of his lack of belief that Immanuel Quickley was anything more than a player, like a certain type of player? I do. Can I sit here unequivocally and say that Immanuel Quickley 2 years ago was the player that Immanuel Quickley showed us he was over the second half of last season and has showed this season, showed us in Toronto and all that? I can't. Was it an error? Yeah, I think it was an error. If Tibbs had to do it over again, would he do it over again? I'm guessing he would at least think about it. This is a different animal. This is like he knows what he has in Deuce, and he's playing like, look at what you've gotten from Burks and look at what you've gotten from Deuce. Like it's not even a conversation. You know, like back then, I know we all don't think about it this way now because we all fell in love with Immanuel Quickley, and Immanuel Quickley is awesome. But like that was at least more of like, man, this feels like the wrong move for this team to make at this time. But Alec Burks was not awful. You know, that's the thing. He was not awful. I didn't think he was awful, at least. Reasonable minds may disagree. This version of Alec Burks is awful. He's like the worst player in the league. Thanks, Alex. FLM Jr. I hope I got that right. Thank you for the very generous contribution. A lot of generous folks out there tonight. Really, thank you so much. Appreciate what you guys are helping us able to do. Thanks for all you do, KFS. I don't think we'll win the title, but I believe we will win the title. I see what you did there. I'm 57, a fan since kindergarten in 1973. How you doing, man? Didn't think I'd live to see the Knicks have this sustainable culture and mindset. I didn't either. I'm not quite your age. But like there were times where it was easy to lose hope. That's really awesome. That I wonder what are your memories like from 73? I'm really curious about that. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But here's the nice thing. This is not one and done. This is not 1 year and it goes bust. Like, I know you cherish every opportunity. You make the most of every opportunity because you don't know when you're going to be back in this position. This team is playing so well right now and with such confidence. Like, you want to bottle this and you want to take it with you. And, like, if they keep this core together, I think it's going to be sustainable. You know? I mean, and obviously Brunson's the center of it all. So, but I think we could feel good that it's going to last. But still, I hear you. Like, again, why not now? Kev is telling me that you had a duplicate to the super chat that came in 25 minutes after the first one, and you're going to flash it now. Thank you, man. Again, I'm sorry. It takes us a little while to get to the super chat sometimes because I tend to talk a lot, sorry. But I really do appreciate the generosity. Thank you so much. It means a lot. You and everybody who contributes to what we do, because the way I always put it is it gives us an excuse when we go back to our families to be like, we're spending all this time on this shit. At least we're getting a little something for that we could bring back to them for our trouble. So thank you for the generosity. And I'm happy you're believing. It's cool. Fred Katz, why are you the way you are? I should ask you the same thing. How you like them apples? Yeah. Fred Katz with another one. Oh boy, We're going on a journey, I see. Sorry, just taking a break from my in-depth expose about how much growth Tibbs has shown this season. I take back everything I said about you. You are a poor writer, a shitty reporter. What else? I don't even know what else. I should make a crack about your weight. Like, what was that bullshit that happened last year? That somebody said it looked like you put on a few pounds in the preseason. That was fun. Get to the gym, Fred Katz. That's what I have to say to you. Get to the gym. Thank you, Fred, for your generosity. Oh, boy. Here we go. Andrew Claudio. I, for one, look forward to reading Fred's expose on the growth of that Tibbs has shown this season. Yeah, there it is. Love you guys so much. Truly. Really do. Adore both of you. Thank you, Andrew, for your generous contribution. Can you please order me that shirt since I'm too stupid to do it myself? Fred Katz with another one. Thank you, Andrew. It will be as in-depth as can be, including quotes from him about how he's shown more growth this year than he did in the past 3. Oh, God. You guys having fun? Yeah, it's good. You like this? This is your definition of a good time. It's great. Really happy I could help you out with that. Oh, wait, here we go. We got another one from Andrew Claudio. Wow, Fred, I cannot wait to read it. The growth is definitely shown and is why he deserves both an extension and Coach of the Year consideration. I see what you did there. Gotcha. That's good. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your generosity. Thank God. Someone else. Kevin Danishevsky. Random thought. I never thought I'd say thank God for Kevin Danishevsky, but here we are. It's kind of a shame that that the year Randall got hurt, that Obi is off the team. Man, Obi would have been fun with OG, Hart, iHeart. No fault, though. I can't tell if you're serious or you're kidding. Would Obi get minutes on this team? I'm just asking questions. I don't know the answer. Would OG get minutes on this team? OB. Oh my God. OG's getting all the minutes. Would OB get minutes on this team? I don't know. Maybe he would. I'm not 100% sure. Thanks, Kev. Anthony Strano. Mac, I think if Ricky Lito doesn't start playing, we might have to #fire Tibbs. Ricky Lito, man, that's a freaking name. Ricky Lito. I got to look that one up. Hold on. Wait, I think, oh, no, I spelled it wrong. But Ricky Dito. Ricky Lito. American basketball shooting guard. That's, you know what's crazy about this? His international stats for Basketball Reference come up before his NBA stats. And that's probably because Ricky Lito played a grand total of 277 minutes in the NBA, 233 of which were for the Knicks, when he averaged a robust 7.4 points per game in 12 games in the 2014-15 season. What a time to be alive. Man. Ricky Lito. Did he ever start? No, he never started for us. That's a shame. Ricky Lito. Man. Thanks, Anthony. All right, we're getting down the home stretch here. Kenneth Escalona. Thank you for what looks like a very generous contribution, Kenneth. GFK is go fucking Knicks. Okay, we got that out of the way. To quote JB, as MVP, we go LOTR. Lord of the Rings. Oh, I didn't even I missed that part. Even the smallest person can change the course of the future. In my heart, Knicks will go for championship, but we'll never speak of it. Tibbs, Gandalf, you shall not pass. Defense. That's great. Tibbs is Gandalf. I'd love to see someone do that on their Adobe, whatever it is. Put the big beard on Tibbs. I think he'd look good with the hat too, and the staff there. Needs a good staff. Even the smallest person can change the course of the future. I like it. I'm not a big rings guy, but I like, I appreciate them for what they are. It's crazy. I don't think I've ever actually went back and rewatched Return of the King. I've seen all of them in their entirety. I've seen parts of the Fellowship of the Ring probably a handful of times. I've definitely rewatched the battle in part 2 a couple times. I don't think I've ever rewatched Return of the King. I saw it in the theater one of the first nights it came out in a raucous theater in Lincoln Center. And it was one of the singular movie going experiences of my lifetime. But I should probably go back and revisit that movie. Okay, I'm going to save this I'll save this before we leave. Before we leave, I'm going to do the updated playoff odds. All right, thank you so much, Kenneth. Appreciate you, man. Dom with another one. Dom Cappuccini. Is Boston for real? With all of these three-pointers, they jack up. Does it seem sustainable to you over the course of a 2-month playoff run? I'm going to look something up real quick, Dom. My inclination is to say yes. I think it is. I think they're so confident in that style of play. I think they've played that way for so long. I think, and most importantly, I think they have enough great shooters that I think they're confident. They're confident they can knock down shots. That said, okay, what I wanted to look up. So last season, the Nuggets won the championship. They attempted in the playoffs the second fewest three-pointers per game in the playoffs. Now, they hit those three-pointers at a very high clip. They hit them at 37.5%, which was tied for third best in the playoffs last year. But again, they were second from the bottom in terms of three-point attempts. The Heat, by the way, were 10th in three-point attempts per game at 33.7. The year before that, when the Celtics made the finals and lost to the Warriors in the finals, the Warriors attempted 37.3 three-point attempts per game, which was second most in that postseason. And then the Celtics, who they beat in the finals, attempted the fourth most threes per game in that playoff run. Now, so that was peak Steph, maybe not peak Clay, but you still had two of the greatest shooters of all time jacking up threes for you. So I don't know. I always feel like it's dangerous when we make that the rule. The Warriors did it. Well, yeah, the Warriors did it. That's because they have Steph fucking Curry and Klay Thompson. The year before that, the Bucks won it all. They attempted the 9th most three-pointers per game in the playoffs at 35. And the team they beat in the finals, the Phoenix Suns, averaged the third least amount of threes attempted in the playoffs at 29.7. So all of this is pointing towards you maybe having a valid point that maybe this is too much. The Celtics are far and away. They attempt the most threes in the game, 42.6. Next is Dallas at 39.7. I guess the reason I would give what you're bringing up some credence is of what I said at the top of the show, which is that they become at times over-reliant on threes. And more than that, they become over-reliant on the wrong types of threes. They become over-reliant on threes that come not with ball movement. Because, when they're flying around and it's one domino falling after another domino falling after another domino falling, and then they get a wide-open corner three and another wide-open corner three and then a wide-open KP three from above the break and then another wide-open corner three. That's when, eventually they're going to start to go down. But that only comes with a lot of movement and a lot of purposeful, movement by their players. When they get stagnant, they don't do that. And to get those looks, you need to drive, and you need to drive to score, and you need to, to drive with a purpose. And I don't know. I mean, I think the Boston Celtics are capable of winning the championship this year, and I think they're capable of winning it, shooting a ton of threes. But I hear you, and I do think that there is some validity to the notion that, again, they are a little over reliant on threes to the point that they don't always get the ones that you want them to get. And it doesn't come from good offense. Thanks, Tom. Booger 11 with another one. JB no longer shares the cockpit. It's interesting choice of words. Sometimes less is more in the NBA. Gets to be the alpha. Also, no holes in the current starting five lineup on defense. Game changer. I agree with you about the defense. I'm going to be the first to acknowledge that. The defense without Randall is better. It's better. I also agree with you that sometimes less can be more in the NBA. I'm trying to think of a good example. The most obvious recent example in the NBA of a guy who wasn't really a high-level player anymore at that point, but he was still high enough of a level player, was Russ on the Lakers. Just simply removing Russell Westbrook from the Lakers made them a better team. And you could look see what's going on right now in Atlanta. They're just better off with one of these point guards instead of two of these point guards, right? Yeah, Kev is making the point that I made recently, which is the Heat's run to the finals last year. You took Hero off it. Hero is a substandard defender, a guy who sometimes, he takes a few too many long twos that you don't love, that come off the dribble and whatnot. But at the same time, eventually they kind of needed him, because eventually they ran up against an offense that Denver was going to be able to put some points on you, and they played good enough defense that you needed another shot creator. And I do think it's just that the notion that you're going to win a title in the NBA today with one guy who can really truly create his own offense that's a big ask. That's a big ask. It doesn't happen very often. It really has not happened very often. Thank you, Booger. Dom Cappuccini with another one. Dom, you've achieved permanent madman status, but I'll say it again. You're a madman, like Tibbs. All I care about is the 2 or the 3 seed. Sure, matchups I could care less about anymore. Before the Kings game, I was willing to settle for 4 or 5. F that now. I'm not going to be disappointed if they don't get the 2 seed. I don't really care, frankly. 2 or the 3 doesn't really matter. I still would rather avoid Philly in the first round. That opinion will not change. Not unless an injury happens to them, which I'm not wishing on them, to be very clear. I don't want anybody to get injured. I'd rather avoid them in the first round if I could. That's it. Anybody else? You're going to have to play well to beat them, but and again, to be very clear, not that they can't beat Philly. They can absolutely beat Philly. I'm not gung-ho for that. Thank you, Dom. Man, the Kings have made quite a freaking comeback in this game. I don't know if it's going to be enough. They were down big to the Pelicans. El Coriano 11, what's going on, man? OG and Kawhi have similar builds. Do you think OG could develop a similar offensive game? No. I think OJ's already, or OJ, it's Freudian slip. Rest in peace. OG already surpassed Kawhi defensively currently. Couple things. I think Kawhi Leonard at his peak was the best perimeter defender that I have seen in the NBA since when it was a different era. I was thinking Scottie Pippen, I don't know. Kawhi, the best perimeter defender that I've seen in the last 15 years in the NBA was Kawhi Leonard. That dude was unreal. He screwed up everything he wanted to do. I think OG is one of the closest guys I've seen to that. He's definitely one of the closest. I don't know that I would if Kawhi at his peak was a 10, I'd probably put OG at a 9.5. Offensively, Kawhi Leonard's offensive game at points in time over the last 8 years. I mean, even at times this season, would get you to look at him and be like, if I need one player to win me one game and I know he's going to be on the floor and he's not going to be hurt, give me that guy. And it's a real conversation. He's always, for the last 8 years, he's been at worst in the top 5 of that conversation and usually in the top 2 or 3. So different offensive player. OG is a role player on offense, and that's fine. That is fine. That's all he needs to be. And he's very good at it. And that's great. Okay. Thank you, El Coriano 11. I think that, here we got it. Giovanni Mistretta, you got this, Macri. Yeah. Was that good? I tried. All right. I'm saving this. Kev, let me know if we have any other super chats. Otherwise, I am going to read off very quickly the most updated Eastern Conference playoff probabilities. Okay. Celtics locked up the 1 seed. Bucks still have a 68% chance at the number 2 seed. 19% chance at 3. 13% chance at 4. Again, they would end up at 4 if they got I believe if they went 0-2 and the Cavs went 2-0. And the Knicks went 2-0. So Knicks 2-0, Cavs 2-0, Bucks 0-2. Bucks would be the 4 seed. Knicks currently 23% chance at the 2 seed. So that means this particular projection system, again, playoffstatus.com, gives the Knicks has it as a 23% chance that the Knicks will go 2-0 and the Bucks will go 0-2. It's the only scenario that the Knicks get the 2 seed. They give us a 65% chance at the 3 seed, 11% chance at the 4 seed, and a 1% chance at the 5 seed. Yeah. So 11% chance at the 4 seed, 1% chance at the 5 seed. Very, very unlikely. Both of those. Cavs, 9% chance at 2. Because, again, 4-way tie at 49 wins. Cavs get the 2. 15% chance at 3. 43% chance at the 4. 24% 5. 8% 6. 1% 7. It is wild. Wild, wild, wild that we are heading into the last 2 days of the regular season, and the Cavs, Magic, and Pacers are all potentially up for 6 different spots. I'm not going to read all the percentages for the rest of them. I'll just say that the Magic have a 45% chance to get the 5 seed, and then 11% 4, and then above a 10% chance at 6, 7, and 8. Far and away the likeliest scenario for the 6 seed. And given that we have a 65% chance for the 3 seed, this is probably who we're going to be playing, is the Pacers. 48% chance at the 6 seed, 21% chance to move up to 5, 22% chance to move up to 4. They actually have a chance, again, to go up as high as 3, as low as 8. And then the Sixers. 26% chance at 6, 30% chance at 7, and still somehow a 36% chance at 8. Heat very likely to be 7 or 8. About almost, it's 93% chance they're going to be one of those. So very unlikely the Heat crawl out of the play-in. But that's the thing right now, right? Is if you're oh, awesome, we'll get the 2 if we could get it, or fine with the 3. Sixers might be in the 7-8. Sixers might be in the 6. So you don't know it. It seems very likely at this point that the Knicks will play, presuming if the Sixers get out of the play-in, winning the first game, either the Sixers or the Pacers. That seems to me right now to be very likely, with an outside chance, I guess, of playing the Magic. Possibly. Yeah. But it's going to be in that order. Pacers, Sixers, Magic in terms of odds of who we're playing. So there you go. Okay. This was great. There's one more super chat that came in. I'll read it now. El Coriano 11. If you could have dinner, oh my goodness. If you could have dinner with one Knick, one coach, one broadcaster, and one beat writer, who would they be, past or present? You're saving this question for 2 hours and 40 minutes into this thing? Okay. The broadcast, oh man, this is so tough. The only two people in my mind for broadcaster are Breen and Van Gundy. And then I'm just wondering if I could get Breen as the broadcaster, I'll just do Van Gundy as coach. I don't know how interesting. I mean, I'd love to have dinner with Tibbs. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. I wonder if I might like Van Gundy. So let's go Van Gundy, Breen. Now these last two are hard. These last two are hard. One Knick. Like, I feel like Brunson, if he's not there with like all of his guys, then it's not going to be as fun, you know? I want an older Knick, but not a Knick that's like so old. Because I want someone who's kind of like a little more loosey-goosey. And but also someone that like has a lot of stories. That was with the franchise for a long time. I'll tell you what would make for a spicy dinner party is if I picked Phil Jackson as the Knick. That would be interesting. Does Phil still have all of his faculties? I don't know. Man, Van Gundy and Phil at the same dinner table. No, I wouldn't want to do that. Man, it's a great question. You know what? Screw it. I might still go with Brunson or Josh Hart. Josh Hart would make for an entertaining party. Yeah, you know what? Let's do this. I'll get Katz. Fred, obviously, because I think if Fred's there with Josh Hart, I think Fred being there would bring a lot out of Josh Hart that might not otherwise come out. And so then I'll get the entertainment factor there. And then I got Jeff and Mike. So yeah, that's my final answer. Josh Hart, Jeff Van Gundy, Mike Breen, Fred Katz. That's a great question. I might change my answer if I think about it some more, but those would be my guys. All right, we're done. Here we go. This was great. This was really a lot of fun. What a night. Feels like a high point, feels like a new high, and yet I don't think it's going to be a high point. I'll just say that. Thank you for tuning in. If you're still watching, please, if you haven't done so, like the video. And if you're watching, subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel. Don't forget to pick up the merch. The link for the merch is in the description for this episode, whether you're listening, watching, whatever. And I will I'll be back soon doing post game tomorrow after the Nets game, so that'll be fun. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. It's been fun. Peace out.